tell me what to make. I don't care about your take. It's my channel, and I do what I want. Wah!
All right, we're live.
We're live.
Hello.
Oh my gosh, dude, we're so live.
The
Okay.
tides floweth.
The tides flow towards midnight. So fun facts. But before I get into that fun fact, hello and welcome everybody to Hobby Vomit. My name's Ian,
I'm
and this
Matt.
is.
Oh, I'm Matt. Hello.
There we go.
Nailed it.
So if you guys hear anything in the background, we got some family staying over. It's a really good time over here at the Riley household. So, no, we're good. But yeah, dude, we are so back. We're actually more back than we've ever been because we are doing part 1 of the next book of Malazan, Midnight Tides. So for all of you who are coming back to join us on this wonderful adventure through this amazing fantasy series, be aware we're pretty soon going to start spoiling some stuff. Okay, so if you haven't read part 1, book 1, you need to go read it because it's really good.
We're almost halfway done with the series. After this book, we'll be halfway done with the Book of the Fallen.
Well, that's until you start adding all those like novellas and stuff to our.
I'm not
our
counting
reading
that. I'm
list,
not
so.
counting that. Just the Book of the Fallen novels.
Fair
Let us
enough.
at least feel something. I don't want
So,
to know we're done with 5 books out of like 25 in the world of Malazan. Like, oh my gosh.
So a little fun fact: I had a research meeting today, and it started at 1, so we were all joined in like good afternoon, and then we spent my coworker spent the first few minutes talking about how we have good morning and good afternoon and good night, but there's no like good noon and good midnight, and that's what that was on his brain at the time.
Good midnight. Good nooning.
Yeah.
Good nooning.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like it.
So yeah, I was just trying to think of like good midnight, like what that would be like.
Happy
I'm
midnight.
I'm up at midnight. It's a good time.
It'd be
it's
happy,
a good
happy
midnight tides, you know.
Yeah. Happy midnight tides, everybody.
There we go. Yeah, that's where the happy comes in, because even good night is like you can't say good night as like a greeting.
Happy
Doesn't
night.
make sense. Happy nights. Yeah.
Happy night. This is it. This is what people are here for.
That's what it's us just calmly drinking tea. We're gonna put some lo-fi on the background.
This video is actually to let you know
jazz
that
you.
We're currently reading the first book. And when we finish in a few weeks, we'll actually make a real video about part 1. So this is just the appetizer.
Yeah. The book is called Midnight Tides. You gotta like wine and dine the audience with a book with that kind of title. You gotta make them feel like they're cozy. They're on the beach.
Yeah.
Tides are lapping up. There's a guy getting murdered over there on the side.
Yeah, this is the romantasy. What I hear, the romantasy entry of the Malazan Book of the Fallen, and I can't say I disagree so far. There's a lot of romance in this one.
Could you imagine if Erickson wrote a romantasy?
It'd probably be great, honestly. I bet it'd be really funny.
I don't
really good.
I don't mean any disrespect to like people who enjoy romantasy. It's not my thing. If it's your thing, it's totally fine. But like, I feel like it would be way too confusing for. But I mean, I guess I can see it. It'd be like
4,000
people...
named characters for the romantasy series. Yeah.
It's like The Bachelor on steroids.
He could keep some of them. We're just talking about one of the characters in here. My Dick Bun. My Dick Bun could just carry right over.
Yeah. Well, so that's what it should be. It should be like a little novella about Ubala.
I mean,
just have the Ubala novella.
Yeah.
Just a little romantasy.
That's right. All right.
The trick is we gotta get.
We should probably start. We just talked about how we're gonna try and keep it under 3 hours. I mean, there's no way. We're failing.
That's why I'm trolling you.
You're
like
stalling.
This, so.
All right. Let's talk. Let's talk about this.
Let's talk. So I think we're gonna do some things just a little bit differently because I just recently finished part 1. Matt had finished it a few weeks ago because he couldn't stop himself. We got to work on some self-control. No, I'm just kidding. It totally makes sense. And so he's been reviewing the notes. So I'm going to kind of start us off with the high-level overview. And then my thought, Matt, if this works for you, is we start with the prologue.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can kind of focus on individual characters, individual character groups, and then work forward through those. I'm about to troll Sengar you, but we got to wait for that in just a second. But I figured, like, because the prologue kind of sets some things that are going to come up. But then I feel like we can kind of just go with the different character groups. So
Sure.
if you feel like that'll work, I think that's what we should do.
That sounds good to me.
And let's go ahead and get into it. So, as far as, again, people who've not read it, go read it. We're about to spoil some stuff. So, Prologue. Prologue was really interesting for this particular one. And actually, I think this is one of the times when we get maybe like the tightest knit prologue with what's actually going on. Well, we want me to do the overview of the series? We're on book.
I thought you said you were going to do an overview of this whole part, and then we're going to get into the prologue.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
I'll leave you in charge for one video.
Yeah.
All right, give us the overview of the whole part. The whole part.
You want the overview?
Give me a one sentence.
Part. Some stuff happens. Okay. No. So the point of this part is to set the stage for a political conflict that is currently brewing between two major factions. Mm-hmm. We are currently in a land with Sister Udor and these Lithari, and many of the other small villages in this land have kind of been decimated over the years. So they are the two largest factions, and they are right on the cusp of a war, which is largely being engineered by the Lithari royalty. And so the stage is being set for the Great Meeting, and characters are being put into play. And the question is, right, what's going to happen when this Great Meeting takes place? Now, we're not going to see that in this part, but we do get to see how the pieces get set.
Yeah. Before, I think I would love to, it might, again, going against what we normally do, because I do want to get into the prologue here soon, but like, I also, sometimes we'll just talk about like generally what we thought before we get into specific details. I would love to hear what you thought about, right? This is book 5. Like, I don't know if you had what your expectations were going in, but mine were not, we're moving to a new continent and starting over again. Like, they were certainly not that. But I loved it. I mean, like you said, I normally am a little slower paced when we're going through and I take notes, but like this time I couldn't stop just reading because I loved it. But I was very surprised that we were going in to I blew it back, don't worry. To a whole new continent with a whole new people. I mean, and that's like with the Eater aside. Like, I mean, we can count the Eaters like we kind of know them, but the Lithari are brand new. And we're just dropped in.
Are we in a different time period as well?
We're in the past. I mean, we're prior to House of Chains. I don't know if I know how far. I
think we're back like a ways.
Are we? Okay. Yeah. I didn't know. Because I couldn't. I think at one point I was trying to figure it out because I think in the prologue it does like the burn sleep, and I was like, all right, cool. Let me ground myself. And then chapter 1, it's like, let me see. Yeah. So prologue, I was like, all right, this is in the past, and then I was like, okay, chapter 1. Year of the late frost, 1 year before the Lethari 7th closure, the ascension of the empty hold. And I was like, okay, so I have no idea when we are. Like, it's like you're giving me a timeline from some other people's timeline. Don't look it up. I see you looking it up. Okay. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. Okay. It is, yeah. All we know is it's prior to House of Chains.
It's prior to House of Chains, yeah.
Because Troll Sengar is in this part, obviously. And it is after the prologue. So we're somewhere sandwiched in between there. But yeah, what did you think of one? Yeah, it seems like this whole story is going to be, at least, my expectations now going forward through the rest of Midnight Tides is this entire book is going to be that. Maybe not, but I think it is.
You mean like this political conflict?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
like
I think
maybe
I'm
maybe
totally
this.
For it.
Yeah, me too. I think maybe this book leaves us where Troll gets into the on the wall and he's chained and I can't remember what it's called. Maybe we end there. Or something,
it's his family that essentially exiles him. So yeah, I mean, I think that is where we
end up in this book. Yeah. So I mean, if that's true, then this is the first time in 5 books that an entire novel will be set in like the past, if you will. No forward progress at all. Yeah, I'm here for it. Sounds like you're here for it. But what did you? Yeah, was it a surprise to you, kind of getting into this?
Not at this point, because it feels like we're always bouncing to something else, right? I mean, we've had the benefit of being able to like go Gardens of the Moon, Memories of Ice, and then Deadhouse Gates, House of Chains. We talked about that in the last one with like the sleepfrogging. But I mean, but both of those storylines have had pretty adequate resolutions. And I know there's still more open questions that I'm excited to go back to, but the central conflicts presented in both of those have been resolved. And so, I could have seen us trying to go back to what happens with like, Dujek and then his host, but like it doesn't surprise me that we're now kind of trying to move on to something else to continue to advance the story.
But are
So,
we advancing the
and
story?
but
Are we
I think
technically,
that
or are we just
I
like this is
think
like
we
a lore
are.
drop?
No, I think we are because there's two things that have come up which I think are really interesting. One, which we'll talk about in the prologue, is the Great Field of Ice.
Mm-hmm.
Because in Memories of Ice, wasn't there ice that emerged from the waters?
My understanding, well, I think it was just the jagged. Oh, yes, in that big lake.
The Jagut, like he shrouded that whole place in ice at the request, and they were near Morn, which is where
The
the
rent.
rent was in Memories of Ice. So I think that when they go and they see that ice like emerging from the ocean, like the waters, I think that's what that is. I think it's what this guy was it Withal? I think that's what he did. Um, and so, but I think that's the scene of the prologue, right? Is like that what they were observing in Memories of
I think it
Ice,
was
like in the
Gothos
waters.
or
Or was it Goth?
Gothos.
Oh, Gothos. Thank you. The Jaguar.
Gothos.
Gothos. Yeah, that's actually a really good name. But yeah, what he did, and I think that what they saw is basically the evidence of this conflict that we see in the prologue. So we are kind of getting some elements there, and that was also related to in Memories of Ice discussions over like the Tista Andi, the Tista Edor, the thrones, which we didn't really know of it as like particularly a throne at that time, like the coming darkness.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's just
then
providing
in
context. I would
right,
argue it's not necessarily advancing the story. It is providing context to then
well,
advance
yeah,
the story.
right. But I think one of the big things that we gotta have coming up though is these questions over the thrones,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's a big part of what we're seeing in the background here, like with the Lothari culture and their beliefs. Like there's this empty throne, and that keeps coming up a lot. And so I think that we're making forward progress in the sense that we're establishing some much needed context for what's going on with these thrones.
Yeah.
So that way we can understand what is now going to be competed for in this hopefully next book, right?
Yeah. We can't really move forward without this 1,000-page lore dump.
Sometimes
I
you
think
gotta
it is.
take 5 steps back to
Yeah.
take a bunch of steps forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm here for it. I love it. This series has proven to me that like I don't need to constantly be moving forward. We've done it, like you said. I think we kind of understand at this point maybe the history of the way that Dead House was written because of the lost manuscript. If there is truth to that or whatever, then it's like those maybe weren't the intentions. But we've done it and we've survived it. And it's just like when we were reading Karsa for me of like started book 4, we got through the house and it was just like, all right, and then Memories goes back and it's like, all right, now we're gonna really talk about them together. 300 pages of Karsa's history, and you're like, all right, I guess we're not. But like, I loved it and I didn't care. Like that entire time, I wasn't like, I wish I was back with the other people. And like that's how I feel here. I'm just like, give this to me. I love it. It's an interesting. The world building's great. At least there's, like you said, there's stuff to with Karsa. There was little to hang on to, but here there's like, I don't think with Karsa, like I said, I think like for the most part, you could just have someone pick that up and read it, and there wouldn't be losing too much in context. Minus a couple of things, but like this, I don't think you could. There's so much that we understand with that prologue specifically, and then just the history of like, we've read full novels about learning about the Edor and the Andi, and I'm still like, thank God, because it is still a little hard to keep track of, I think, of like, and then freaking Steven Erikson, bro, he says, here, I'm gonna give you a T-Stand D, but I'm gonna make him an albino, so he's white. He's all white. And I was like, wait, so it's like before he's like confirmed an Andy, He just introduces them like an all white person coming up. And then so it's like now I need to keep track of an Andy who's albino, doesn't look like the other Andys. Like, good lord, like come on. That is just that's evil. But yeah, I think I think I'm mostly hanging on. It's nice that this history or whatever world building that we need is there, and it's been great. So
Yeah.
overall, yeah. What do you think of the part?
I've enjoyed it overall. I don't. I mean, I this isn't yet going to be top of my list in terms of favorite books in the series. I think Memory Vice is still that. I think this one is very prosy compared to I have to say many of the part ones where we are going off into a lot of like tangential. I mean, I shouldn't say tangential, but where dialogue scenes lead into prose, or they're set up with prose, or they end with a lot of prose. So there is a lot of like taking a scene, explaining a little bit of what's happening in the scene, and then going off into prose, and then moving on to the next scene. And so rather than it just following what's happening in a series. And so that's revealing a lot, but I do think it does make the section more dense because of that. There's a lot to pick out when Erickson drops in that prose. And I think it's a lot more dense in that way than many of the parts that we've read so far have been, even though it's only like 216 pages in my particular book. Um, the other thing we kind of mentioned this beforehand, just a personal preference. I don't like how much Erickson is using the titles and honorifics on the characters, especially like ones where multiple characters can have that honorific. And there are a lot of cases where we have characters being referred to in multiple ways by their name or their honorific. And there's even conversations where characters are being referred to by an honorific where all of the characters in the conversation have the same honorific.
You don't want to make it
there's
easy. Come on, that's
yeah.
it'd be too
So like
easy if
yeah.
you just named them.
So I think like that's a little unnecessary, and we could we could simplify that a little bit to make sure that's clear in terms of the flow of the dialogue and things like that. I think you can go back and just be like, just you go back a couple lines, you're like, hold on a second, and then you're like, okay, no, I get it. But still, it does kind of create these situations where you can have to stop and be like, wait, hold on, which person are we talking about here? So
I kind of want to piggyback off that where like I did find we did talk about it a little bit with Memories of Ice, like when we first got to I'm blanking on the city. It's not Pale, was it? Whatever the city was where the very first time we learned about like the destriant and those honorifics and roles, it was already like that we learned like 3, and I was like, whoa, who what's this, like what's this mean? And then we're doing this again, but with like 15 to 20 named characters. And then on top of that, I think it's even more a little confusing to me of there's so much divvying up with just like factions within factions, and then within those factions that are within factions, they're breaking into sub factions, and then within those sub factions are talking to other sub factions, and there's so much political scheming that it is hard to keep track of who is with who and who said what to who, which is fine. I think at the end of the day, we're going to get what we need. But then on top of that, we're also dealing with the Edur, who are living off of like a false history. So like everything, I have to remember like they believe something, but what they believe is not right. And I need to know that I know that. Who else knows that? Some of them now, but they're pretending they don't. Like it's just like, whew. There was another book where we dealt with that as well, where it's just like people know stuff that they aren't supposed to know, so they keep it quiet and then act like they don't to people who know that they know. And it's just like it's so many levels deep. I'm just like, I hope I am, following, but I've learned to trust the process to where I do feel like after reviewing the notes and everything, I'm mostly on board. But there's gonna be times where I'm like, I don't remember that person's name, or be like, well, what? So why are they doing this again? Like, I just need a refresher. So there's a
then you
lot
get to
of
the
that
end
in
of
this
part
book.
one. You do the end of part one, you find out the big reveal is that the whole thing was opposite day. Like,
The
wait,
whole thing was
hold
opposite.
on.
Oh my god. Oh my god. That was so funny. Yeah. Yeah, it's not getting any easier for me, I would say.
Mhm.
Not that that's a negative. I always tell people when they're asking me what I think of Malazan, if it's like a friend or something, I'm like, it feels like work, but in a really fun way. I feel like I'm sitting down to read like history books
Yeah.
and like studying them. So it is like in the best way, but it is still like that. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel like I'm in a better place. I've jumped over I've gotten over the hill and now it's just coasting. No, it's like I'm still working for it, which is
Yeah.
good. I do feel challenged continually. I just wonder how many more of these are we gonna do?
I
Like
don't
is
know.
like book six,
Probably every
seven,
book.
8 or like a new continent. Like again, it just like sets me up to be like, I can't wait to reread it with all of like
Mhm.
I just wanna I can't even give a high level overview anymore because like I don't even know what it is until I have the context of the whole story. Just be like, what is the goal of this book? I
Mhm.
still don't know really. So yeah. Anyways, I know that was a long
Mhm.
tangent, but I do think it felt important to me here because we were talking at the end of in our bar review House of Chains of just like yeah, things were coming together. Things were finally coming together. We get some payoffs and a
Yep.
bunch more
Yeah.
questions, and now we're not dealing with any of that anymore. It's just like not anymore, but like not
Yeah.
for seemingly for a while. I'd be very
Mhm.
surprised if we turn the first page of part 2 and we're back in
Yeah,
fucking.
that would
I'd
be
be like,
weird. I mean,
what?
maybe, but yeah, it's not what
No
certainly not what
way.
I expect right at this
Yeah.
point. Yeah, I
And then
think
it would
my
be
moving
juggling
forward.
timelines. I don't want
Oh
it
god.
at this point. Please, like, let's just stay in the past here.
I think my life hack moving forward is going to be make a bookmark out of the Dramatis Personae.
Make
I
a
think that's gonna be my
bookmark
life
out of it.
hack.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
real.
make a bookmark out of it. Yeah. Is it-
I have like these little magnetic let's see if I
Mhm.
can show you. I guess you can't really see it, but you see that little like
Mhm.
this thing?
Yeah.
I have one in the
Yeah.
front and the back because he puts them in the front and the back.
Yep.
And I feel like once a page. I'm like, flip. Who is this? Oh yeah. Okay. Where are we on this map? And that's just me. I
Mhm.
like knowing where we are on the map, and like the
Yeah.
maps are
Yeah. Yeah.
great. I like all of that.
For sure. Yeah.
But it really is. And when I'm taking notes, it's like a
Mhm.
page or a vignette, whatever the way he does them. It's like it takes me a while, but it's really fun. But it is a lot. So now we're done complaining
Okay.
and praising, I guess.
Into
I
the
just
prologue.
I wanted to get that out before the prologue because I think a lot of people that are watching this they know what happens. We're just
Yep.
gonna go over what
Yep.
happens again, but maybe they wanted to hear our thoughts up front. So
Yeah, for sure. And overall, still very excited to break up in part two.
yep, me too.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah, I think it's really really good. I actually think this is one of the stronger openings of any of
I
the
would agree.
books. Yeah,
Yeah.
even though I'm confused, still I was like I could not put it down. I just had
Mhm.
to. Yeah, unexpected but very good. All right, get us into the prologue.
Yeah, so the prologue I think this is a really interesting prologue for this particular book because it is very tightly knit with the rest of the story. Not that the prologues aren't, but usually the relevance of the prologue, it does take some time to get to that point. So this is maybe the tightest other than like Gardens of the Moon had a pretty tight prologue. But I really like this one because of the fact that we're actually gonna, as you mentioned earlier, set up a really important event that is gonna be lied about later, which is really cool through this prologue. And so we don't need to go into like all the specific details of what happened, but the main thing that's really important is we're going back into way into the past when the Tista Andi and Tista Edor are actually allies fighting against the Kachin Shamal, which, if you remember from Memories of Ice, are our Velociraptor sword arms.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah,
and
and there's
and
even like
others too, right? Those are just
yeah.
like the minions.
Yeah, those are like the drones, right? And you
Mm-hmm.
still have like the matrons, and they dropped the whole short tails, name again, and right. And so we learned about that particular conflict in the earlier books, where the matrons were the matrons of the Chicken Jamal. Think like I always think about like the Zerg, like the little Zerglings from StarCraft, like you have like the queen and then the hive, and but they're basically like almost like dinosaurs. They operate like insect colonies, right?
I was gonna say, other than
mm,
the cow hunters, I don't know if
yeah,
I necessarily have any idea what these beings,
yeah.
like a standard Kachain Shamal. What are you, humanoid at all? Are any of them humanoid
No,
at all?
I don't think so. I think
They're just
I
all
just
kind of
I don't know what they look like.
dinosaurian.
Like, yeah, I kind of want to look it up, but
Don't look
I
it
just
up.
picture Zerg. I just picture like Zergs in my like
I'm
just go to
picturing
StarCraft.
Emperor Zurg now from Toy
No,
Story.
no.
I haven't played StarCraft, so Zurg just makes me think of Emperor Zurg.
Yeah. Um, but you know they like try to master chaos, and they end up creating like what are called the short tails, who rebelled, and they like flying castles, and then those like come crashing down. Right, one of them gets taken over by the Tista Andy, which is like animated rake. But we're kind of here at this point in time where we are seeing this and Andy, this Andy and the Tista Order fighting together against them, and for the most part, they're doing well, and they're taking a lot of losses. It kind of feels like a pure victory, but they are able to survive. And the scene focuses on two really important characters, which is Scabandari, Blood Eye, and Silchos Ruin, which I believe are both Elaine, which is their dragon soul taken.
Mm-hmm.
And notably, Silchos Ruin is Sister Andy, and also the youngest brother of Animander Rake, because there's Andarist, Animander, and Silchos. And at this time in the prologue, Andarist is already dead. And so there's Animander, who has essentially disappeared off the face of the planet. Some people even presume he's dead. And then there's Silchos Ruin, who's actively fighting against this Kachin Shamal.
Okay, wait, no,
Yeah.
pause.
hmm
Pause. I'm confused.
Yeah.
Okay, so if who is the guy that was on the floating island in House of Chains? That was
Who's the
protecting
guy
the
who's
throne that Animander left to look after the grandchildren. He saved Crocus. There was the big fight.
Mhm.
Who was that? Because I thought that maybe his name was Darist. But then we're supposed to think
It could
that it
be.
was Andaris, but then that's
It could
way
be,
after. That's way
but
after
isn't
this.
um yeah, that is that might be actually,
So maybe was he
because
not actually dead?
he may not actually be dead. They might just think that.
Okay.
No, but yeah, you think you're talking about the one before Crocus gets there, before the Traveler and all of that. Yeah, I
Yes.
think you're right. That's dark, and he has the sword, who's like becomes vengeance, and
Yep.
yeah.
But
That's
he
the older
dies.
brother.
He dies there on the
He
island.
dies there.
Yeah.
Yes, he dies there on the island.
Okay.
And an Animander we don't know about, and then there's Silchos who's like actively fighting. And so, but again, this is like they even go into it later. I mean, three extremely prominent figures that all of them could be eligible for godhood, right? For like ascension. So like these are not just like strong knights or like noble commanders. Like this is like tippy top in terms of like fighting prowess, in terms of you want to put them in the same league as like Animander, put them in the same league as the Kaladin Brood. And anyway, but Silchas, the Sis Andy are really taking the big hit from the Kachin Shamal, and the Eater are actually under Scavandari, like basically giving them a reprieve. But unfortunately, the reprieve is actually under false pretenses, and they use that reprieve as a way to actually massacre the remainder of the Tista Andy forces, which is then what leads to, and essentially at this point, long conflict between the Tista Andy and the Tistidor, right? And so at that point they were allies, but as we've known them, they have been enemies, and this could have been the conflict that basically kicked that off, right? And so Scavandari basically finds Silchas, who's wounded, helps him, and then stabs him in the back with an enchanted blade, and either deals a fatal blow or kills him on the spot, right?
No. He imprisons him. He picks him up as the dragon, and he brings him to the Azath
Oh,
house.
that's right. He do.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Azath. But the blow is extremely deadly, right? He can't like do anything basically to fight against it. Now one thing that's interesting is that off in the distance, I think it's specifically Silchaw's Ruin who notices it, but there is Gothos, who is this Jagut. And so then he's approached by this mysterious, like, elder god. I can't remember. Was it mentioned? Was it Kalimdor?
It's male. A
Male?
mile.
Okay.
Which, like,
Mile.
I feel like you saying the whole thing with the ice in the lake, it does, because they talk about Male there as well, who's like the god of
Yep.
basically water.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And so Gothos is, like, on one hand kind of just going to ignore it. On the other hand, he might just destroy the whole place. And so he has been essentially casting a ritual this entire time where he is going to open up his warren, which, Jagged Warren is the Warren of Ice, and he's just going to do what Jagged do and just basically just ice palace the whole thing, right? To destroy it. And Mel asks him not to destroy it, but instead to contain it, to preserve it in ice. And we do get the drop that they are near the Rent, not the Rent, but near Morn, which is where the Rent was in Memories of Ice. And we do see that there's this ice that kind of comes to the surface of the waters, which I think we are meant to believe is in fact this scene that's rising above the waters, which is really cool.
yeah.
And then the last thing we kind of end with is Withal the Swordmaker.
Well, sorry, real quick before we get into
yeah.
that, more happens with Gothos and Male. Basically, so one, he earns a future favor from Male by doing that.
Yep.
He's like, yeah, sure, I'll freeze time instead of ice palacing everything, but like you owe me one basically. And then I think that is when they go to kill Scabandari. That's, he tells them for Kilimandaros Kilimandaros. I also say Kilimanjaro. Kilimandaros to kill Scavandari, scatter his people. Yeah. So that is an important part, because I think that's what leads to, as we learn in the future, the downfall of Scavandari.
Yep. Well, and also sets the stage too, because with Scabandari being killed, then that helps solidify the story, right? That the Tista Andi actually ambushed the Tista Edor and tried to kill Scavandari, versus the other way around. Because, well, one, now that Scavandari's dead, it definitely helps solidify that. But also, two, nobody who was involved in the ambush of the Tista Andi is alive to be able to reveal the truth. Right? So those are important events for kind of setting that up. And then it's gonna help me remember some of the details. But then we do get into Withal the Swordmaker, who, as far as I can tell, it looks like he's with the crippled god.
Yeah. I mean, like, if it's not, then I would be really surprised. It's just a fallen god.
Yeah.
But
who is effectively saved Withal from death and has demanded of him that he make a sword.
Yeah. It gives him three baccarals.
Three
giant baccarals to help, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's it. Yeah, he's just like, make me a sword. Which I don't remember if that sword's in play at any point. And I don't know. Doesn't matter really, probably at this point. But yeah, it is a really interesting, like, it's like we don't know when in time that is. I don't know if there is like another little entry. I think there may have been like another little, italicized. Here we're jumping time. Let's see. There is. So that happens in wait, does the prologue have or like the first part of the prologue have a timeline too? Yeah, okay, yeah. So the first one was the first days of the sundering of Emerlon, the Edor invasion, the age of Scabandari Blood Eye, the time of the Elder Gods. So that's like way back. But then this jumps way forward to 1159th year of burned sleep. So this is like current, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, but you know what? This actually does set some context, because this says 3 years before the Lethrai 7th closure. Because isn't Gardens of the Moon, isn't that around like 1162 or something like that? So
yeah, so my understanding is that these are all happening kind of within the same decade.
Yeah, so it seems like the seventh closing, like when we jump to
Yep.
chapter 1, that's happening around the same time, like right at the same time of Gardens of the Moon, just
Yep.
somewhere else in
I
the
think
world.
that's right.
Okay,
Yep.
okay, cool. That at least like sets it to where like okay, good. Because I had no idea. I was just like it's somewhere between these two things, but that helps.
Yeah. So yeah, so we don't know what that is going to be for, but I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
You tell me there's going to be a new sword in the game, so I'm a little intrigued.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
our prologue, which
Mhm.
I agree. I think
So-
it was a lot more focused. It's really interesting. I thought it was really
Mhm.
cool, but the
Yep.
backstabbing, and it also made me wonder like where are the Tis Leosin during all of that. I don't know.
We don't know, but also, I mean, it kind of seemed like from what we got in House of Chains that they're fairly segregated from the other T states
Mm-hmm.
at this point in
I think they're
time.
like better than them too, right? Like they're like pure and
Well,
they
they're
think
like
they're
we're the
pure.
people of light,
Yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah,
you literally walk in our shadows.
yeah.
So yeah, but I would also not to add to more of the politics of this
I
whole
know.
book, but it would be fun to learn more about them for sure.
Yeah, we must at some point.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
point. But
But yeah,
yeah,
but I yeah, and I like just that it does really feel like we are like this is a prologue book one because a lot of these elements of the prologue are going to help us with book one.
yep,
And so, going from there, I think the next place I was going to go was just to the Sengar family and kind of
yeah.
starting off with that piece of the conflict.
Let's do it.
And so, so there's the Singars, which is actually a name that we are familiar with because we have met Troll Singar, who is actually featured not only in the prologue for House of Chains, but also was featured, of course, throughout the whole story. Troll Singar, interestingly, like we had kind of already mentioned, right? He's in the prologue of House of Chains being banished by his brothers. His hair is cut. He is chained, and then and basically left to drown, and then is ultimately rescued by Talani Mas, right? And so, so it's kind of interesting how we kind of know where his story is going,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't know how we get there because
Yep.
right now he's fairly close with his family.
Mm-hmm.
So, where we kind of start off with this whole thing, or at least in terms of inciting events, is Troll Singar is actually returning. We do know that his family is currently in preparation for a gathering that's being ordered by their king, Hanan Mosak, who is the Tista Warlock King.
Mm-hmm.
And notably, this is almost like Scottish tribes, Irish tribes, Danish tribes, like kind of think about that, where you have different factions and they all have their kind of chieftain, right? But then there is a particular member who's trying to assemble the tribes,
And he's
and
doing
that's
so
anonymous.
forcefully. Like
Yep.
he's doing it without he's holding the princes hostage.
Hmm.
Of the prince of each clan. So,
Yep.
he's holding them hostage, which is already
Yep.
interesting, right? It's like,
Yep.
all right, so this guy, I don't know if he's a good guy kind of thing.
Yeah, but he doesn't rule like they do say like he rules through absolute power, but not necessarily that he is tyrannical in all respects. And I think that's
Yeah.
kind of what's making it work so far is he is creating legitimate threats. He is ruling as as a dictator effectively, but he is also giving people the opportunity to prove themselves. He is recognizing people for their merits. So he is playing that side of the field too. And so naturally, you can imagine that not everybody just wants to like rebel against him, right?
Sure.
Because there
Yeah.
are still opportunities for them to live out their prospects.
Yeah. And
And
it's
that's kind of
like
what we
I think he's
see.
uniting them in the knowing that a war is about to happen. It's like if we don't
Yes.
unite, we're not gonna make it. So we gotta.
Well, and even at this time, I mean, when we see this like with the Eater culture, I mean, there's still a warlike culture.
Mhm.
They fight, they conquer. It's very important that men who are like as they're growing up, that they find opportunity to be in battle, that they will take lives like in a more of a duel-like fashion. Like they need to be on the battlefield, more in a locked combat, and actually take a life to become bloodied, which is really important, and men who don't have that are emasculated. So like this is still a warlike culture, and so having a really strong leader, right, who can lead them, there for them that there is admirable qualities in that, or at least qualities that would lead them to want to follow this particular leader. Um, and so, kind of going along with that, we focus in on the Sengar family, which kind of embodies a lot of these same tenets because you have Tumad, who is the father of this family, who is very well respected and a very strong warrior, but just is older now. And then he's got four sons who are each um, extremely talented in their own rights, right? And where we kind of start off with is the fact that Troll Sengar, who um it's kind of funny because like we know him the best, but he always talks up his brothers, right? It doesn't really give much to himself,
Mm-hmm.
but we know that he has a certain tenacity to him, let's say. But he comes back and he's discovered something that now needs to be brought to the attention of both his father, but also the Warlock King. And that is that one of their main sources of food, which is a colony, if we can use the term colony, but it's a herd of seals, is currently being poached big time, right? Like, I mean, he basically finds like a field of carcasses that are just piling up, and namely, they are being poached by the Lotharis, who have a current peace treaty with the Tees Edor, and this is in violation of that particular treaty because this is their land and they're not supposed to be there. They haven't asked for permission, which of course was intentional. We find out that during that particular conflict, one of the guys was basically, and one of the Lothari had noticed Troll Singar and laughed at him, presuming that he couldn't do anything, and he just chucked a spear with Olympic accuracy and impaled this guy
Yeah.
from such a far distance that he couldn't even go collect his spear.
Yeah, which is like kind of a not like a
Yeah.
no, but like, yeah, he's like, "Where's your spear?" He's like,
Yeah.
"Trust me, bro, it was worth it." Like,
Yeah.
wait till you hear what I did.
Yeah.
But yeah, he did, yeah,
Yeah.
notably lose his weapon in the
Yeah.
process.
But it also just cracks me up that every single time we've met Troll, he has lost his spear. Because that's like
It
the
just,
thing when he's with, in House of Chains. He's just like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna need a weapon.
mm-hmm.
What happened to yours? I lost it.
Yeah, yeah. No,
But it's kind
troll.
of cool that like we see that like he's actually very talented. He's very talented with a spear. And so I'm excited to kind of see what future Troll will be able to show us.
Yeah.
And so, but this is going to be an exciting event because it kind of goes along with a lot of the concerns that the Edor have, which is about impending war with the Lotharis, because they're the other major faction, and namely a lot of the other tribes in the area have been conquered and decimated one way or the other, and so it sort of just brews or sets the stage for a natural conflict. But notably, the Lothari do outnumber the Tist Eater, at least by 1.5 to 2 bodies per Edor, right? So it isn't, even though the Edor in our from our perspective are very very strong warriors. Lothari are nothing to scoff at and probably have the upper hand at this time, right? And so that does put them on edge. But the Warlock King notably has plans, and these plans are going to involve the Sengar brothers. So gathering takes place. Troll announces to the clan what has taken place, what he observed, and the Warlock King basically lets everybody know that they are going to have a meeting, and that they are ultimately going to go and fight with the Lothari, but maybe not the way that people expect. That he has a plan in mind for how they're going to deal with the Lothari.
Because the great meeting has already been set up. It was already
Yes,
going to happen.
exactly.
It was an upcoming
Yep.
meeting.
Yep.
And this happened right before. So now it's like,
Yep.
okay, well, we're going to go into this meeting with different,
Yep.
a different idea of maybe
Yep.
than what we were going to pre-seal attack.
Yeah, and they're going to basically go into that meeting and they're going to kick it off with effectively trying to get like reparations for this. But all of this is effectively a ruse for whatever the Warlock King has planned,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we don't exactly know what that is at this point. But he has issued a command for the Sengar brothers to go to out and journey and to collect some gift. A gift which is really important to the Warlock King, a gift which they cannot touch
Yep.
with their own hands, which is a very, very worrying because for me, I was trying to think about something that we've seen in the story so far that has that kind of quality. And the only thing I could really think of, and maybe you thought of some other ones, but I was just immediately drawn to, it wasn't, was it in Memories of Ice? I'm pretty sure where, no, it was in Dead House where they find like the pieces of the god that had like attached itself to to that like warlock, to that sorcerer, and they had become like almost grotesque, like enlarged, maddened, and Pearl ends up like kind of falling into that thing, and they have to like go kill him. I don't know if you remember this, but that's what it kind of reminds me of, is that like there can
Nope.
be pieces of warrens, pieces of gods, and they can instill great power, but they also usually come with great madness as well. And they're very, very dangerous. But we have seen cases where people have either accidentally or intentionally tried to claim these for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so I worry that that's what we're dealing with here. And that's why he's saying you can't touch it, right? Because then they might be affected by it. And so I worry that he's trying to find like a piece of a warren or find a piece of a god
Yeah.
and take that as a gift, right?
The only other thing I could think of, because I don't think the Finished worked in that way. I think they planted and they were touching it, and that was fine. The only
Yep.
other thing I can
Yeah,
think
that's
of that we've talked about, like as soon as basically it was the throne. Like as soon
Yep.
as someone sits in that throne, boom, they are
Mhm.
the emperor. They have control.
Yep.
So it could maybe be that,
Yep.
like
You
the
can see a
actual
box and it's just like there's like tiny
a
throne.
baby throne. Yeah, because I guess I think until this point I was thinking it was going to be something small, like a Finished, like an acorn kind of
Yeah.
thing. But I guess in theory we don't know how big this gift is. He is
Well, he
sending
said,
six
yeah.
people.
Yep. And they have to wrap it in hides.
They have to wrap it,
So,
so
yeah.
maybe it is. Maybe it could be a throne
Yeah.
or something. I
You
don't
know what
know.
it could be?
Hmm.
It could be the I know we're still a few years away, but it might be the table that we're gonna see in Memories of Ice.
Oh, that'd be cool. There you go. That's the throne. They turn the
Yeah.
throne into a table.
Yeah.
There we go. It's all coming together.
Yeah, there we go.
Uh,
But presumably it's something that is going to provide the Warlock King with a desirable power, right? Then that's what he ultimately craves, right?
Yeah.
That's at least that's how we're to expect it.
yeah, power enough to like destroy. I don't know about I at this point I feel like it is to destroy the
Yeah.
Lethari or Lethari
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. And now the kind of odd thing about this commission, right? I mean, it makes sense in terms of his character motivations that he is ultimately going to try to seek this thing. But he has given this like task to the Sengar brothers, who are all very notable. Again, that kind of makes sense. He's going to send some of his best warriors, but their positions are odd as far as people who should be going. So you got the eldest brother, Fear, who is ultimately going to be the war commander for the armies under the Warlock King.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like he's essentially like number 2 in command behind the Warlock King, and he's being sent, right. You've got Troll, which makes sense. Troll even refers to himself expendable, but he's a obviously a proven warrior. He's at least fairly clever and intelligent, so he makes a lot of sense, right? And then you've got Benedas, who is the third brother, who is also the high sorcerer for them. So now that's another very notable position. He is their strongest sorcerer, other again than the Warlock King. And then you've got Rulad, who is the fourth brother, the youngest, also unblooded. And in their particular culture, they don't trust unblooded very much, but yet multiple of them are going on this journey.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the other two are Therados and Midig Bun. I believe are the other two that are going along.
Mm-hmm.
I'm specifically not saying it the way that Matt says it. So they're also joining in. But it's interesting that we have some characters who are notably expendable, and then other characters which hold very, very prominent positions. And the reason why I mention that as being interesting is because the Singar family itself is quite notable. So just it makes you wonder what might be at play here. Are we sending these characters because it's so important that this comes back, that it's worth gambling everything? Or have these characters become too prominent and they might be future threats to the Warlock King? And we're trying to set up something where we can both get this gift and deal with them too, or maybe there is no gift at all, right? I don't know.
I think I
But
probably fall into the former camp. I
yeah,
think it is like this is, you know,
yeah,
if anyone's gonna get it, they're gonna get it. If they die on the way, they're doomed anyways, kind of thing.
yeah,
Like the
yeah.
only they have got to get this, and so that is their only hope, really. That's kind of how
Mm,
I'm feeling like it's gonna be,
mhm.
but with maybe some expendable people along the
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. They're Obi-Wan. There's only hope.
yeah, and it is notably Alf in these ice planes. Like that's where they're
Yes.
going.
Yep.
Um,
And ice planes, jagged.
yep.
So yeah. So that is something that's really interesting, and I'm very excited to kind of see what's going to happen with that particular journey. Now, kind of staying if you're okay with it, staying with those
Yeah.
characters.
Mhm.
So they're effectively going to be setting off on this journey, but we do have, and I'm still a little bit fuzzy on the particular details with the ship. But they basically have a moment where they're with their mom Uruth, who starts to suspect that the Warlock King is serving his own interests above the interests of the Edor, and that he is seeking power, which could be extremely dangerous. And she has some suspicions as to what that might be, and reveals to Fear and Rulad, who ultimately reveal to Troll. I can't remember if Benedus is with them at this point.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. But it reveals to those three that there is a secret that has been kept amongst the women of the tribe. And the secret is that the story that they've all grown up with about Scabandari being attacked by Silchos Ruin is actually a lie. And then, in fact, the Edor had betrayed the Tistandi, massacred them, and then later the Elder Gods had captured Scabandari and executed him and crushed his bones in what they know as the Stone Temple
Mm-hmm.
or Stone Bowl.
Tumble. Yep.
Yep. And that's where they go. Um, and they stand upon the ruins to reveal this. Well, specifically, Fear and Rulad to reveal this to Troll. They
Yeah.
stand on those bones.
So yeah, I think Fear's the only one that knows, and then when they get there, he's the one that I think he's the one that tells them, not the mom.
Yeah. Yes. Correct.
Yeah, the
Uruth is not
mom's
there at
pass
the
it
time.
to Fear, and
Yep.
then Fear. Once they get there, Fear
Yep.
does tell Troll and Rulad. But
Mm,
yeah, the
mm.
event that I mean, I feel like we should talk about the event on the ship
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because
Go for it.
it's important for a couple of reasons. The first reason is basically an Edor washes up ashore dead,
Yep.
which is I do think like Steven Erickson did a great job of like death is rare. Like these people must live for a long time. Like death is this is like insane that someone has died. Their burial procedures and just like this is bad. And so in response to that, they take out these ships, and then I think the Hanan, the Warlock King,
Good.
he's got these six princes. He also has one like big old giant shadow wraith that is like kind of like a bodyguard.
Yep.
But when they go on these ships, which Troll goes with them, I think it's Troll and Fear go.
Yep.
There's like an insane amount of these shadow wraiths, like more than they've ever seen. Then fog comes in and clears the water.
Yep.
As they approach the Lethari ships,
Yes.
and then like the shadow, something just like something big and dark comes from underneath the water essentially, and just kills all of the Lethari. They can't really see, just something it kind of gave me like Cthulhu vibes or something.
Yep.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
some kind of dark presence. Then the fog clears and Hanan sends the shadow wraiths onto those ships and sends them onto the Lethari ships and sends them back to Lether.
Yep.
And then they go back. So that's the big inciting event. And then, so yeah, I don't know if Uruth sees like what the hell was that? That's not powers
Yeah.
that we normally deal with here.
Yeah.
And so maybe something's going on. I need to send my sons before they go. They're about to go do this mission for this guy who's clearly dabbling in things he shouldn't be. I feel like they need to know the truth in case it becomes relevant on the journey.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
but
and presumably there might have been something that Skabandari had or was seeking that ultimately led to his ruin, right?
yeah. So I did
So,
write that. That was one I like just verbatim wrote.
Yep.
If we want to know, because it's again like I think I read it to you
Yep.
once, and I'm still just
Yep.
like I'm just gonna
Yep.
need to read it. So here's
Yep.
what Fear tells his brothers when they are there at the Stone Bowl. After they find, it's either right before or right after they find the dragon bones of the Eliant of Skabandari. So he
go
tells
for it.
them about the secret knowledge carried by the Edor widows, passed to him. This is just from like the chapter summaries online. Passed on to him and Benedus by Uruth. So it concerns Kashan sorcery, which are from the Kachain Shamal, and the consequences of Skabandari's victory when the Tiste first invaded this world. So as revenge, the dying Kashan race sent their magic into Kurald Gulain, which we know is the Warren of Darkness, and that cut off the Warren of Darkness from the other realms, and Mother Dark, who then spawned, is the mother of the Light Dark Shadow. She was driven into the abyss, and there she would ultimately die, consuming light, shadow, darkness, and the abyss itself. All life was now locked into mortality and faced an end, which is crazy in itself that happened. All life locked into mortality, whatever that means. Then the Elder Gods and Eliant were angered because the Teast invasion had driven the Kashan to their last act. They hunted down Father Shadow, who we know as Skabandari, and the Elder God, Kilmandaros, slew him. Then Skabandari's spirit was placed into a prison of eternal pain to last until the end of the world. So crazy history lore drop that is still like it's really hard to like wrap my head around all of that. But basically, Scamandari got his. Like
Yeah.
for the consequences of locking, obviously they wanted to kill the Chain Shamal. Chain Shamal, retaliated in their last moments, which destroyed Mother Dark, which brought everybody into mortality. And they were like, well, that sucks, and that's your fault. So we're gonna kill you, and then
Yeah.
damn your soul to eternity, essentially. So yeah, it's interesting because like in that I don't even know if officially that they know that Scabandari betrayed Silchus Ruin, or if it's just because of what Scabandari did, which was kill the Kachain Shamal, he had consequences, kind of thing. So I still don't even know if they know entirely that their whole history is false, or if just the end of they didn't they might still believe that's their god, you know what I mean, like
Yep.
they might just think he's
Father
still
Shadow.
out there somewhere, and it's like, no, he's not out there anymore, guys, he's dead.
Yeah.
Or basically dead.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Is like we do have some interactions with him because he's still able to wander.
No, that's Ruin.
Um,
That's Silchus.
oh, that's still okay.
That's Silchus Ruin, yeah.
Yeah.
Because Silchus Ruin's ghost does appear, or whatever,
Yeah.
does appear to Troll, and because
Yeah.
Troll's like, you're the betrayer, how are you here? And
Yeah, that's right.
Silchus is like, Mother Dark's gifts allow me
Yep.
to wander. I think it's while Silchus is dreaming within that prison, the Azath
Yes,
house.
exactly.
Whenever he dreams, he can wander wherever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but as far
Well-
as I know, I don't believe we have seen Scabandari. I think he's locked and
Yeah.
gone. Yeah.
Well, and so in the prologue, it actually specifically mentions the Azath house where Silchus Ruin is taken, and we
Mhm.
will see that there is an Azath house being featured in this book that's currently dying,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to be very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of going on with our group, so we have this revelation, and so now it is clear that the Singar brothers know this, and they are going to go on with this mission given to them by the Warlock King, but they're not necessarily going to do this with blind obedience, right? They're not going to be doing this with blind obedience. They're going to be looking out for a way to figure out what the Warlock King is doing.
Yeah, who's he working? Like, what are his intentions now? He's not doing it for their god, for their people anymore, or
Yeah.
for their god. Because I think that's probably what he says. Like, God's telling me, our God is
Yeah.
telling me to do this and send you on this mission, but actually your God's dead. So who's telling him to do this, or is he just telling you to do this?
Yep. Now, while this is taking place, and I believe it kind of ends, as far as their group goes, it kind of ends with that, right? We have not traveled yet to the ice plains.
Yeah,
Unless
they
I'm just
like
like,
come back for like the
yep,
dinner,
yep,
because Benedus is gone and then
yep,
finally comes back. But
yep,
yeah, that really is it. They haven't even
yep,
left yet. Technically, they're
yep,
they're just about to leave.
yep. But then there is something interesting going on at home. So it's kind of the fun is like Sengar's brothers are leaving, right? So then naturally we got to have something that's kind of brewing at home. And so in the Hiroth village where they're at, they do have Lothari slaves there, and the Lothari slaves do maintain certain elements of their culture. In particular, one of the Lothari slaves, who is a young maiden, whose name is Featherwitch, actually has preternatural knowledge of how they can perform rituals, specifically rituals that are relevant and culturally important to Lothari. And they have various times in which they'll actually enact those rituals. And so she does, and she essentially begins prophesying, like she almost kind of like revealing really important truths, culturally important truths to the other Lothari there. One of those Lothari is Udanas, who is notable in this particular story. He is actually not even at first. He's not even like we kind of presented as like very lowly Lothari slave because he's like fixing nets on the shore, and he's like not even a fisherman, right? He's like fisherman adjacent. But
Fisherman's apprentice.
yeah, exactly. He's just like he's like a apprentice. He's a slave who's like a servant to
He's the
another
unpaid
slave.
intern
Yeah.
to the unpaid fisherman.
Yeah. Um, and so yeah, it's like lowly as can be, right? But he's one of the things we do find out about him is that he's always been in love with Featherwitch. And during while all of this is sort of brewing with the Warlock King and the gathering that they have, and the news is being revealed, and what's taking place with the Lothari. Also, I forgot to mention this, but when you talked about the ships, it should be noted that there were 19 Lothari ships that got wiped,
Yeah,
which is crazy.
seemingly in a matter of like moments. Like
Mm-hmm.
it seemed like it was very, very quick.
Yep. And so Featherwitch begins kind of this ritual, and during that and in the middle of that ritual, she gets attacked, where this sort of shiny, almost like translucent creature, like basically claws into her and begins lifting her off the ground. And Udanas immediately jumps in, jumps onto the creature, pulls out a hook, tries basically clawing into the creature with the hook to kind of rip open its legs so it will release Featherwitch. Is able to do so, able to wound it quite severely before it ultimately like takes out his neck, right? And then he falls to the ground, and then Uruth, again, Uruth Singar, the mother, is able to get there in time and is actually able to save both of them.
Yep.
And during that time, because of Featherwitch's own abilities, she's able to actually hide her abilities from Featherwitch and contact Udanas while they're in this comatose state to reveal to him that there's something afoot because the moment that Uruth touched her being Featherwitch, she immediately discovered that there's something wrong with the Warren that Uruth is using, which is the same Warren that the Warlock King uses.
Yeah,
It's the
she's
Warren of the
using it to like
Tistida.
heal,
Yep.
and the Warlock King is not.
Yep. And Featherwitch is like, there's some darkness here,
Hmm.
right? And we don't know what that is, but that's highly suspicious. Now
I
the
just wanted
other
to
thing,
say, real
yeah,
quick,
yeah,
two things. One, I totally thought Udanas was just dead there, and I was like, oh, I liked
mhm,
that. Like it was a cool like
yeah,
introduction, but it very much was like, oh damn, I was kind of like getting behind this guy, and then
yeah,
dead. But then I was wondering, so the ritual
mm,
she's doing is called reading the tiles, and we
yep,
learn what the tiles are once we jump over to the other side
mm.
in the Lethari or Lothari culture and all that. Do you think that that's similar? Do you think that there's overlap between that and the deck of dragons at all, or do you think it's
I
just totally separate?
I don't think there's overlap, but I think it's culturally it has a similar place and importance.
Yeah. Because this
Because I
one
think the thing,
specifically is like 7. It's
yeah,
it's referencing these 7 holds that are
yep,
all gonna they're all gonna open, or they're all gonna close?
yep.
Open, right?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
and there's like the empty hold, right? And so there might be some overlap, right, with like with the deck of the dragons, but it's worth noting that with the deck of dragons, the cards themselves aren't just specifically the thrones. A lot of those cards are specific members of
The
specific
members,
houses.
yeah.
Yeah. Whereas this seems a little bit more like high level, I would say. It's like it seems a lot more about like prophesying events that would happen like between houses or like important moments for when houses would become available. Or in this case, there's this idea of the empty hold, the empty throne.
Yeah.
And that empty throne is very culturally important to Lothari, right? They even like swear on the empty throne, and if you like do so in public, right, it's like it's even worse than our equivalent of using God's name in vain, because in their culture, if you if you if you use the empty throne in vain, then you have to put your money in the swear jar, and if you can't, then they will strap the swear jar to you and
Yeah.
make you swim the canal or drown.
Yeah, I'm
Like it's
excited to talk about that. That's funny. I was looking at the because I think in the back here he's got the holds. Yeah, so there's the so here's the reason why I
Mhm.
asked that. Looking in the back, there's the holds.
Yeah.
So like under like the beast hold, it says the beast hold, bone perch, elder, crone, seer,
Yep.
shaman,
Yeah.
hunter, tracker. Then we've got the Azath hold, hearthstone, keeper, portal, path, mason, tomb. So to me, they do feel it's like a deck of tarot cards almost, which just reminds me of the deck of dragons in the sense of like all of these belong to a suit, if you will, and they read them by doing like a tarot reading. Um,
Yeah.
and some of these
But
do sound like titles. Some of them, right? Queen, elder, seer, shaman, liege, knight, gate, ice
so
throne, walker.
are these the specific tiles?
These are, yeah, like in the back where let's see if I can hold it up,
I don't have it in the back of mine.
like right here. So like we got like
Yeah.
the
So there,
beast hold, and those are like titles underneath it.
yeah. I
Which
said, yeah, I guess I just don't fully know what the tiles look like, because I thought the tiles were like just the holds.
I
I
imagine
didn't think
it's
of the.
yeah, I to me it's like imagine like a bag. This could be totally wrong, but I was picturing it like a bag of Scrabble tiles, right?
Mhm,
That you reach into and you draw 7 at a time or whatever, however many you
mhm,
draw. And each of those belongs to one of these suits or holds. And then depending on which ones get drawn, because later when we see Saren, Baruch or something, it was like when they read the tiles, they were it was read or whatever prophesized that
mhm,
they were going to see Siltra's ruin on that path by the tiles that were drawn. So to
Yep.
me, it's like it kind of acts like a deck of dragons, like when
Mhm,
Tattersail's like kind of reading them in the beginning
yep.
of like events that are about to happen. That's kind of how I imagine it. But instead of a deck of cards, it's Scrabble tiles or whatever. It's just like their culture just does it differently. That's kind of how I
Could be,
pictured
yeah.
it.
Yeah. Because like with the deck of dragons, you also have the master of the deck, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I do wonder, that felt pretty specific.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if like that has a translation with the tile, like if that has like an analog with the tiles or not.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, as far as like it function. I mean, it functions the same way
Mm-hmm.
as the deck of dragons for sure. They're casting that as culturally important, and it's kind of their way of like prophesying, getting some ways in that they can glean sort of the machinations of the gods and the powers that be, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
right? And yeah, so it's like so it's during that reading that she's attacked. And then Udanos comes to save her, and then Uruth saves them both.
Yep.
After ultimately Featherwitch is able to kind of befriend Udanas, and they become allies, but only temporarily, because one of the problems now is that because Udanas was being attacked by this Wyval while cutting it open, its blood got into his, and so now he's been presumably infected with this Wyval blood,
Which is
and now
awesome.
he's Yeah, and
Awesome. Like I was like,
he's
oh
having
damn, this is
visions of the
sick.
past, and he
Yeah.
start like truths are being revealed to him. Like the truth of like Silchos Ruin was revealed to him, and this is Andy, and so he's having these things.
And we don't really
But
know what it means either, but
yeah,
Hanan, because he's there when they wake up, and he's very, very concerned about that. Very
yep.
concerned. And I can't remember. Does Uruth check right then, and Featherwitch hides it from her, or she doesn't even know yet? Or
Well,
it's
it
just
takes
like we got to
time.
keep an eye on this kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's because it takes time for it to reveal
Yeah.
itself.
Okay. So there's keeping an
Yeah,
eye for now, but it is a very serious concern, and like
yeah.
that opens up a lot of questions for me. Like,
Mhm.
what's a Wyval?
Yeah.
One. Two, why are they so concerned you can get infected by one? What does that mean? And why would that be so bad? So I just don't know, but it's awesome. I was like, oh, this is sick. It's gonna be freaking a werewyval. But yeah, very really cool
Mhm.
just setup of I was
Yep.
hooked, you know.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then more on top of that is he tracks the attention of Wither, who is, they're aware of these shades like wraiths that effectively move about the village, and they're generally not a problem, but they are. Many of them are actually effectively trapped souls of Tista Andy, and we come to find out that many of these are Tista Andy who had been slain by Scabandari Blood Eye at that event in the prologue. And one of them, who goes by the name Wither, has effectively attached herself, I think, herself, himself, but I think it's a her, to Udanas,
Yeah,
and
she's like, I don't
effectively at
want to
this
work
point,
for this guy
yep,
anymore. Can
yep,
you take me?
yep.
Which she
And she's
doesn't agree to
effectively
at first.
no, but ultimately he does agree to, and she will now live in his shadow.
Hmm.
And she basically can hide herself there from being observed, even by people like Uruth, right? And
And
let's
she can
say
hide
specifically,
the Wyval stuff too,
yep,
which she
y-
does. That's how he gets
yep,
away with it at the dinner.
yep. And so we have this kind of interesting situation where he he ends up being required to go to this dinner that we see as sort of mentioned, like where um Benadas, Troll, Fear, Rulad, all of them are kind of having this last dinner together before like it's a big dinner with a gathering of all these people, right, from their village before ultimately the Singar brothers and their company leave off for this mission. And so Udanas is supposed to be there, Featherwitch is supposed to be there, and because it's this prominent event, they allow the slaves to get some rest before kind of being up all night for this event, because they don't want them like tripping over themselves and stuff like that. And he begins dreaming during this event, and during that dream, effectively gets like transported right into the Azath, this dying Azath house. And he talks about how cold it is, like how it burns his skin, and like how scared he is, and like I can't remember all of the specific events that take place,
He
but he
sees
talks
Kell
about
hunters first.
yeah, yep,
He sees the Kell hunters, and then
yep,
he enters the tower and just sees this like frozen being with
yep,
its like head caved in
yep,
and dead Jagged on the ground
yep,
and
yep,
like footprints leading up to it, which
yep.
don't know what that means, but
Maybe, yeah, maybe something to do with Kettle, maybe not. We'll talk about that in
yeah,
a little bit because
yeah,
he does talk about it specifically being a child.
yep.
Um,
And it would
and
would fit for her.
yep,
And then he just like
um,
flips into another scene.
yep.
Yeah, go for
Um,
it.
well, so yeah, because I remember the higher level details in terms of like him going there and then coming back, and when he comes back, he's just like raw
Okay,
on
yeah.
several pieces of his body.
The other scene is basically like
Mm.
after seeing that first scene
Yep,
inside the tower, the Azath tower or
yep,
whatnot, he's just like snapped into the being of the Wyval,
yep,
flying over the battlefield that we saw in the prologue.
yep. And that's where he sees like Silchos. He
Yep.
learns about Silchos Ruin, about the betrayal, about
Yep.
the deaths of them. He learns that Wither is one of those Tista Andy
Mm-hmm.
who were murdered on that day.
Yep.
But I don't remember him mentioning Gothos, like Gothos or like the
I
Jaguar.
don't. Yeah, I don't either. I don't
Mm.
remember that either. So.
So I don't know if he saw those particular events.
Mm-hmm.
But he learns about the history of all of that before ultimately like getting snapped back. And so yeah, he's got these like physical scars now. Effectively, he's got wounds over his body, and so even though this happened while he was sleeping, it has a physical effect on his person,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is crazy.
Yeah.
And we've seen we've seen some elements of this before, but it's clearly becoming more and more intense for him.
Mm-hmm.
And so now he's going to spend the dinner trying to hide that. But there was a particular event that has created some conflict for him. So
Oh
when
yeah.
he,
Forgot about
yeah,
this
yeah,
part.
yeah. So even though he's really sweet on Featherwitch, she's pretty upset with him at this point because it became clear to her that he's becoming increasingly more mad, and she suspects it's because of the Wyval blood. And the reason why she thinks he's becoming increasingly more mad is because he was trying to tell her about his first time that he was having these visions
Yeah.
and his encounters, where he encountered, and I'm going to start with a name, it starts with an M. It's like
Menendor. Which,
Menendor.
by the way, speaking of confusing shit, freaking Steven Erickson, bruh. It's like this culture, they call her Menendor, but they also call her daughter Dawn. And
Mhm.
it's like, there's names for Dawn, Dusk, but they also both have other names. And
Mhm.
I'm just like, please, I can't keep track of who's who anymore. Uh, and it's like they
Yeah, so
don't
he,
like daughter Dawn because
Mhm.
she's associated with, I think, I don't even remember anymore. But they
Mhm.
don't like her. She's like bad to the Edor people.
Well, and she's associated with like rivals and things like that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and they really don't like Dusk either because I think Dusk is like they associated her with like with darkness. Let me.
Yeah.
So here's what they call them. See if I can find them. Where was it? Okay, yeah. So we've got, yeah, so this is why it's confusing. So in the back it just says Menendor, then in parentheses
Mhm.
betrayer, comma, Dawn. Then we've got
Mhm.
Scabandari Blood-Eye, Father Shadow, Emerlanus. Then we've got Shoutatha Lore, Daughter Dusk. No betrayer, just Daughter Dusk, which I think makes sense because they are Edor, which is the Shadow, so they
Yeah.
like the Dusk. Then Silchus Ruin, the betrayer, and then someone else I don't know yet. So, but yeah, so it's like Menendor. So Dawn is bad because light, I guess. It's just not
Mhm.
shadow. I guess is
Well,
the way to look at it. It's just there's that. I'm assuming she's associated with the Teast Leosin,
could
like
be.
dawn,
Yep.
right? Light. There's
Yep.
dawn, dusk, and
Yep.
dark. But anyway, sorry to detract. It's
Yep.
just one another like she's the because I think the first time we see her, they just mentioned Dawn. They're like, but the betrayer. I'm like, oh, okay, so just ruin. It's like, no. This isn't Silchus
Yeah.
Ruin. This is a different betrayer. Well,
Yeah.
why are you the betrayer? I thought it was Silchus Ruin that was the betrayer.
Yep.
Anyways,
We're gonna find out.
we're gonna find out.
Um, and so, but anyway, so he has this confrontation with Minotaur where he becomes extremely anxious, and she's like a very, very intimidating figure.
She saves him
Um,
too. He's getting like
yeah,
dragged by something to
yep,
die, and she
yep,
saves him. Yeah,
yep,
so that's the first notable thing.
yep. And also kind of because of that, we get a sort of forced realization that like, oh, these visions can have physical implications for him, right? Like, because
Mm-hmm.
he feels it, he's being wounded. He's like wondering, am I dreaming? Am I asleep? Like, but it doesn't feel like that. And yeah, so she saves
Freddy
him. She's
Krueger.
extremely intimidating figure, and she basically looks at him and she's like, in you is two hearts, and that's when we get that first confirmation that okay, that Bible blood is taking place, and she's like, okay, so which of the two hearts are you gonna ride? And he's like, well, I guess I'll ride the one I've always ridden. She's like, that's a coward's answer.
Yeah,
Like basically, like you need
little
to learn to
bitch. Yeah.
embrace, yeah, you know, embrace what's happening to you, right? and then so naturally he's like, well, I guess I'll do the
Yeah.
other one.
Fine.
She's like, she's like, great. You wanna? You want to learn how to ride the other heart? Let's go. And so, yeah. So then some writing happens.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
notably, she rapes him. Yeah,
yep.
it is like non-consensual. Picks him up by his belt and just
Yeah.
like is like pulling him up.
Yeah. I don't know if I understand the full mechanics of this. Is that one of the? Is that
I
one of
think
the positions and one of
maybe
those
that's one
bonus?
of the books in between.
Yeah.
It's just a yeah user's guide,
Yeah.
sex and malazin for dummies. But no, yeah, she notably takes
Yeah.
his seed.
Yep.
Which
And then
what
now
does
he's
this
trying to
mean?
explain this. Yeah.
So he's a
What do you mean?
human
Yep.
infected by a Wyval, which we don't even know what
Well,
that
he's the
is yet.
Lithari. Yeah.
Sorry, he's a
Yeah.
Lithari infected with Wyval blood, being who has now not given but had his seed taken by
Mhm.
a god.
Mhm.
So what that mean? What's she gonna do with that? Don't know. So by the way, is a Wyval just like a dragon? Because I know Wyvern, right? They're small dragons or
That's what
something,
it,
right?
that's what it feels like. Yeah. Or
Okay,
like a
some kind of
pterodactyl.
yeah. Okay. Not full on dragon, not an alien, but maybe yeah, like
Yeah.
a smaller
Yeah.
breed.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely a notable thing that we need to talk about for sure.
Mhm. Yeah. I also wondered too, because sometimes you will see this with stories, like specifically fantasy stories, where they will change the terminology of something um, if some aspect of that thing has changed. So, like an alien is a dragon, but they're specifically alien, or I think it's how you say it, alien soul
Oh.
taken.
Mhm.
But then, what happens if one changed into a dragon and could not change back?
Oh, then that in theory, maybe not true, but in theory,
Yeah.
maybe they call that a
Yeah,
Wyval.
they might have a different
It's
term
like
for
you're
that kind of
just a
situation,
dragon. You're not a soul
mm,
taken dragon.
right?
You're just
Because
a
you're not
dragon.
coming back anymore. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is something that we know can happen with Soul Taken and Beavers, and presumably could happen with an Alien as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it could be something like that, or it could be again something different.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is just based on like what we heard with like the claws, it effectively resembles like a wyvern, which one of the important things with a wyvern specifically that makes it distinct from other dragons is that they don't have front legs. They only have back legs and wings. So
Mm.
specifically like a wyvern compared to a dragon is supposed to have four legs and wings,
Yeah.
and a wyvern only has two.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean that's again, it's like that's not a big deal, and I'm sure some people probably see it differently, but that is a way that you can distinguish between the two.
Yeah. And also they can
And
be
that,
invisible.
yeah, well, yeah, I mean,
There's
yeah,
also that,
in
which
in
we don't
this one,
know. Yeah, we
yeah,
don't know. We don't know what that means either.
yeah,
But,
mhm,
yeah, just a lot of questions. But very, the Wyval stuff is cool. This
mhm,
scene, probably necessary, but for what we're going. But notably, something it's happened a few times already in the series. It's just, I think it's sometimes just the tribe's way of life. If we're talking, like
mhm,
with Karsa in part one, and then it happens to Troll at the end of House of Chains. They
mhm.
like find that there's ancient people that they like tell them like they don't exist anymore. Oh, but he's like, what's that over there? It's like, oh, that's one, and then she just rapes him and takes a seed.
Yeah,
Um, so a
yeah.
lot of
There's a lot of semen demons.
there's a lot of semen demons in this. Yeah. So who knows? I just like, well, what is it? What is that? I just don't know what it means. But I am excited to find out like what the hell, where we're going
Well,
with that.
there's some people out there who need sperm donors, and they have some very specific preferences, and
Yeah.
there's people out there who accommodate.
But if
So
she is associated with the Tesliosin,
yeah,
what is she doing with that? I don't know.
but
I'm like
but
trying to think of the things
presumably,
we know about the Tesliosin. They've got those little
yeah,
demons,
yeah,
those little demon things. But yeah, I
true.
just I don't know yet.
But presumably has a lot more to do with a Wyval. I don't think that she just has like a fetish for like
No,
unpaid
yeah, for sure.
interns for unpaid fishermen.
Yeah,
A little too specific.
yeah. But
um,
yeah,
but basically, to kind of in that story, he tries to explain to Featherwitch what happened, and so you can kind of imagine where him trying to explain that he has an encounter with Minotaurs that nobody's had an encounter with, and that the reason why they had an encounter is because she raped him. that didn't go over so well, and so Feather Witch basically dismisses him as being going mad because of the
Yeah.
poison of the Wyvil blood. And and so then when he's at the dinner serving, they actually do mention, I think it's Uruth who mentions Minotaur's name, and he's like over there trying to like bring dishes to someone, and he hears it, and he's like, and
Yeah.
like drops all the stuff on the ground, right? And breaks it, and so he tries to start collecting it, and then Uruth notices, she leans over, notices he's got bandages on his hands, and he's trying to like collect the shellfish that he just dropped. And so she's like, "What are you doing? Why are you touching food? Why have you
There's
been handling food?"
specifically blood.
Mm,
There is
yeah,
blood.
yeah.
Yeah.
When you have like seeping wounds on
Yep.
your hands, right? And so then she's like, wait, hold on. I remember you. You're the one that we've been trying to keep an eye on. And so she then tries to, as Featherwitch clarifies or states it, like mind rape him, basically go through his memories to see what's up. But she finds no evidence of any of this,
Yep.
nothing that looks out of the ordinary, because Wither is there in a shadow protecting him, and she does not see Wither, and she doesn't inspect his shadow.
Yeah. And
And
then
so he's
they.
able to hide himself.
So here's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't know the mechanics yet of like,
Yep.
but did blood get in their food that they then chose to eat because
Well,
she
so
detected there was no problems there? Like, obviously, they're not like, great, give us the bloody food. Your blood's clean,
well,
but
so
like, could that
so
infect
I
them?
think one, it's because the shellfish is dropped on the ground. I don't think they're eating that shellfish,
Correct,
right?
but he's like handling like the plates and things, and
Yeah.
just like
But then, and so
cross
then the second thing
contamination,
is
dude.
right. So it's a lot more about the food he's already been handling, right, than it is about like they're going to eat this
Mm,
specific food. So like I would say, one, he has bandaged it. Um, two, they even recognize he's bandaged it, which is why Uruth ultimately gives in to, and we haven't mentioned Mayan yet, or Mayan, who is the betrothed to Fear,
hmm
but that's why she ultimately like is like, okay, it's you can go, but you're not, you're done serving tonight, but you can go. But I did not get the well. First of all, I didn't get the impression there was blood because he said seeping. I took it more as like pus,
mm,
but maybe it specifically said blood and just missed it. Because I just remember the saying seeping wound, which he talked about how raw his hands were, so that makes me think like pus. Because if you have like a cold burn, that's what's gonna happen. You're gonna start
mm.
seeping pus.
Because I thought for some
Um,
reason I thought it's again it's been weeks, but I thought that like he was like the plate broke in his hands, like he like was like like when you like tense
no,
so
no,
much that you
no, no. It was the wounds that he got from his
his
dream.
journey. Okay.
Because he has burn like these cold burns over his
Mm-hmm.
legs and his hands, specifically the palms of his hands,
Mm.
are just cold burned raw.
Okay. Okay.
And so I was thinking more of like he's got like seeping, like weeping blisters, basically, right?
Mm.
Is the way I took it. And so he bandaged those, but there's like soaking of the bandages,
So she's
right?
not get tapping into his mind because she's. I mean, I'm sure she's not stoked about the possible cross
Yep.
contamination, but
No.
she's not worried about like them getting infected or anything. She's just more of
Yep.
like, how could you have gotten those wounds?
Exactly, because it's super.
Um,
Because somebody specifically says he did not have those when he came here,
mm-hmm. Yeah. So
right?
she's like,
And then she's like, "What's going on?" Boom. Yep.
yeah. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
mhm.
And then after that, he just tells Featherwitch about
Yep.
Wither.
And then they bang, but not really.
Not really. But yeah, I am like, I guess we could talk about each little. Maybe we can go back to the Sengars if we want, but like, I'm stoked about this storyline. I gotta say,
Yeah.
I am very excited to see where this goes. I think Featherwitch for me is like,
Mhm.
it's all about Udenas at this point. Like he is just a fairly compelling character. I think
Yep.
not a ton of depth yet. But the first thing he does is risk his life to save someone that he loves that doesn't even know who he is, basically. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yep.
all right, I like this guy, kind of thing. And yeah, I'm really curious to see where this one where it
Yep.
goes. Um,
Same. No, I'm very excited for both these storylines, and I love that we kind of have that contrast now of like these guys are leaving and there's something brewing at home, and I don't think it should be underestimated, underplayed, dismissed the fact that this dinner also has an important element because of the fact that Mayan, who I just mentioned, is betrothed to Fear. Because in the Edor culture, they have a practice where the future husband gives a sword to the future bride, who holds on to that for a year. Then and that's the year of the betrothal. And then when they get married, they bury that sword under their doorstep. And so I don't think it should be downplayed the fact that we're in that year of betrothal, right? Because that creates this sort of like expectation for what's something that's going to happen in the future. And as people know, when it comes to fantasy stories and marriage ceremonies, it's always ripe for some drama,
Nothing
right?
bad ever happens.
No.
It's in. I guess before we move on too, because that
Yeah.
kind of wraps up Unas's and Featherwitch's whole storyline. But going back to the Sengars, right now, pretty inconsequential, but seems like it's gonna come to a head at some point.
Yeah.
Is it Rulad? What's his name? Rhubarb.
Roulade. Yeah.
Rulad is acting a little like something's going on maybe with him and Mayan or May and he's into her.
Yeah.
And Troll kind of notices. It seems like Fear even maybe notices at some point, like the Stone Bowl. They like almost like talk about it. It's kind of weird. Like I don't really know where it is at or what's going on. So it's like, is the Fear thing like they know and like their whole thing is like a stage, thing with Rulad going in and like that's all set up and they kind of know his brothers. I don't know. But probably it's gonna come to a head at some point. I hope so. It has to. Otherwise, like, why is Malin in this book? Because right now, that's how I'm feeling. Like, why are you here? Like,
Yep.
I don't care
I
about
think-
you at all.
Yeah, I think it's just setting up a point of division between the brothers who are about to journey, right?
Yeah.
It's just something that they're going to have to resolve.
I mean, it's
or
similar
overcome.
happened with Karsa too, though. Maybe that's why.
Yep.
Because you remember when he's leaving, Byroth is like, or maybe it's the other one. I can't remember. But like,
Bayroth.
yeah,
No, it's Bayroth.
Yeah, and it's like, and Karsa's jealous and like this, so we're kind of doing this again, but in a way less compelling way, in my opinion, as of right now. But
As of right now,
that
yeah.
one ended really quickly. This one seems like, clearly they're gonna come back, or, man, I just thought about this, but prediction time, off the cuff. Fear does not make it back, and Rulad will maybe step into place, kind of something like that.
Yeah.
But
I'm a little bit more worried that something bad's going to happen that's going to be instigated by Mayan. Like, I'm worried that she's up to something. Yeah.
yeah,
So, may not be the case, but it just, I am worried that.
we don't know anything
she may
about
have
her. She
stuff-
could be from
Yeah.
like a family that's trying to seize power or something.
or she might be like working for the Warlock King. things
Yeah,
like
true.
that. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
All
So,
right.
yeah, I think that pretty much kind of covers everything that's going with the High Roth Village.
Yeah.
So do we want to move over to
The
the
Lothari
Bedicks?
side of things. The what?
Mhm.
Sorry.
the Beddick brothers?
Yeah,
The
let's
other
move
brothers?
to the other half, if you will. And if we don't do it, well, actually, sorry. Before we do, I think while we're at the Edor village and everything, I feel like it's worth talking about, and we can keep it pretty high level. Just their culture and their way of life, because notably they do their burial process is really interesting. They like take coins, which they don't care about. That is not what they value. They don't value currency.
Yep.
But they do cover their dead in coins and like let them sit for a while, kind of thing, and then eventually burn them, which is just interesting. I'm not gonna. That's one thing I don't like about the broken binding is like there's pictures up front. There might be a bit of a revealing picture. Do you care if I show you?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
It's not that revealing. It's just like you'll see. So, well, yeah, it kind of is revealing. Well, I don't know what it means, but so that's what I'm picturing the dead Edor look like before they go under, but dead. Obviously this guy's not dead. But that maybe that's why it stood out to me because I'd seen that picture as I'm starting the book, which maybe is a little unfair, but they did make it seem like only the women handle it, or slaves, because Udinas is chosen to be a helper when they
Yep.
are what's the just preparing the body
Yep.
for their burial. But I found that interesting, that the fact that they don't value money at all, and which is obviously a huge contrast to the Thari, which we're about to talk about. I guess that's it. Any other I mean, I just think culturally, they're two very different cultures we're talking about.
Yeah.
This one's got tribes, the whole sealing thing, not sealing, but like seals, sealing. And they also care very much about they call it blackwood, which we have now seen in previous books, like that very special wood. That's what they value. That's something that they hold very dear. But from what I remember, wasn't it? Oh yeah, never mind. I was like, wasn't it the eater that liked the blackwood? Yeah, it is. It's because that's exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's kind of it, I think. Unless there's anything else you wanted to add, you said, the sword and the burial and those types of practices.
Right, and I mean, but it is an interesting contrast because the main point of division between the two cultures is going to come down to the relationship towards like wealth and ambition.
Yep.
And
What drives them.
specifically, and so specifically, the Lothari culture is very, very big on wealth, like personal wealth, and the idea of indebtedness, right? And to the point where we even get this statement in the book where it's like wealth and blood, and they even say, "What's the difference?" Or gold and blood, what's the difference, right? And so the two are intimately related. And so when you have like Udanas, who comes from a Lothari culture that's very much about indebtedness and personal wealth, and then you have them preparing a burial that's about melting down coins, right, and covering the person in wax, right, and like burying them with that and burning them. You can kind of imagine that that's a very that can very much contrasts like sort of the philosophy of the Lothari, who would view that as like a waste of wealth, right?
It's interesting because moving to which we kind of can move to the Lothari too and talk about cultural, maybe culture first, before we get into their people. But like at the same time, when we think about the drownings, the way they do their drowning, it's like I can't. Well, actually, they may have touched on it now that I'm thinking about it.
They did.
They do. They have people go out and get the money after they drown.
No. They
okay.
They have a rope. They have a rope attached to the person.
Yes.
But they don't use it to save the person. They use it to pull the money back.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really steeped in their culture of even like the death penalty involves money, which is just fascinating. And I would say like obviously it's not a 1-to-1 with humans, but like I think humans are driven by wealth, and like this is more grounded in like humanity. I think the Lothari, with like they have an economy, there's investing and things like that, which I find interesting. Just them being kind of like I mean, they are the bad guys here. I don't know if the Edo are good guys, but the Lothari are definitely the bad guys, enslaving other tribes. And that was one other thing I wanted to ask you about, because there's other people there. In my understanding is that these are not Idor. These are just other peoples, like just we don't really know, but other like races or whatever. There's a couple of them that lived nearby that have all been enslaved by the Lothari. And then they're more of like a hierarchy
in some cases,
kind of thing.
There are other Eater villages that have been decimated.
Yes, yeah.
Decimated / abandoned. So.
Yeah. They're more like the kind of typical what you'd expect from like a British fantasy or something, or European fantasy, where it's like there's a king and a queen, a prince, and chancellors and things like that. It's more of a natural hierarchy kind of thing.
Yeah, so you have your royal court, you have your society, there's a blossoming economy, there are many cities, and they number somewhere in the like 600,000 to 700,000 well, they can field 600,000 warriors, so you can imagine there's probably a populace that's close to 1 million, if not more, right? So quite a like a blossoming or wanting society, civilization, but it's a civilization that also very much values, you might say, like letter of law versus spirit of the law, or maybe some adaptation of that, because their idea of wealth is essentially how they get to this point of justice, where it's really not about like doing bad things. It's really about, can you pay for the consequences
Yep.
of those bad things you've done. It's like, oh, you murder someone, well, if you can just pay the fine, then it's fine,
Yep.
right?
Sound
So
familiar? Another important belief they have that comes up just I just thought it was worth putting here in like their empire and what they believe is that it is a held belief that during whatever this means, during the seventh closure of the seventh hold closure, I'm assuming, the first empire, which we've learned about before, will be reborn, and their king, King Discanar, will ascend and assume the title of first emperor.
and claim the empty throne.
Claim the empty throne. Yeah. So yeah, big. Really, really big. I mean, basically, our king is going to become a god.
Yep.
So, and which is crazy. That's a held belief by all, not all, but the majority of people are really just like, yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
again, it's like I don't know if it's that extreme, but like what we do know is that they're all taught that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it is one of those things where it's like they do have laws against, speaking
Saying
against
otherwise. Yeah, that's true.
that.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
probably like, sure, buddy. whatever you say, that's fine.
and as far as like these laws go, I mean, I think we've kind of mentioned several times. So just to kind of go ahead and I guess maybe fully explain how that works, the main way in which they will enact those laws is that they have a process by which they will ultimately try someone, find them guilty, and so on and so forth. And then once someone's guilt has been determined based on the crimes they committed, they rack up a debt. They rack up a debt to society, and the debt to society is literally a gold debt that has to be paid. And either they pay that debt or they wear that debt. And by wearing that debt, they literally have to take that sum of money that they owe to society, and they have to swim a canal, right, from one end to the other, the not the long ways, the wide ways, right, with that sum of money. But keep in mind, these are effectively, they call them docks, but they're effectively gold coins, right? So a couple of hundred of these is still quite a large weight.
Yeah.
Right. And most
hold on,
people
got to pause for Steven Erickson to do another classic Steven Erickson. There's not just docks. There's like 4 levels of this currency and denominations
peaks.
and peaks.
Docks.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's one thing I'm just like, I'll just reference it when I need to. Like, but
peak is peak. The scaffolding is whatever. It's like pennies, and then
docks are above that.
Docks and
wouldn't scaffolding, if we're talking like a building,
scaffoldings.
Oh, I thought you said scaffolding. Like I was like, wow, I didn't notice that this were all building related.
Yeah, it's like scaff or staff or something like that. But basically, it's just like your bear coins, right?
Yeah. But yeah, this is like a full on currency, not just a you got one thing. No, there's denominations and exchange rates and all that good stuff. But yeah, sorry to interrupt.
No. And then, so basically, you've got to wear that. And if you can make it to the other side, then your debt they'll take the money back and the debt is cleared. But most people drown. In fact, it's very, very, very rare for anybody to make it to the other side. And because of that, there's actually like a whole market of people who just go there to gamble on how far the person will make it or how they'll die.
Yep.
Right. And people make a lot of money gambling on other people dying through this punishment. Right.
Yep.
And so that's kind of like, that's their society. This is how this society works. Now, as far as the story goes on this particular side, it is kind of fun that we're getting this like contrast of brothers. I actually really like it that that goes this way. So on the Lithara side, we have the Bedict or Bedict brothers, and there's 3 particular brothers who are all notable in different ways, and some famous, some more infamous. And again, we have a situation where we're focusing on like middle brothers. So on the Beddick side, we have Hull, who is the oldest brother and an ex-Sentinel, which we're not really, I don't know if we really know what that means, but essentially they were a prominent military figure.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of learned that Hull was the
Yeah.
one, like he was the one that betrayed these other peoples on behalf of the king. So what,
Well, no, he didn't even know that he was doing that, right? It wasn't it like his job was to like go and scout, or am I misremembering that?
I thought he was the one.
Mm.
I thought that he was the one because I think that some of them recognize him as like as a betrayer kind of thing. Maybe not. Maybe I'm
No, I
misremembering.
think
But
some of them actually still quite respect him, because I think the thing was that he went and befriended them, and then he came back, and they're like, "Cool, great, now we're gonna go conquer them. Thanks for all that."
oh, I see what you're
Yeah,
saying. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. But so he is the one, but they don't realize he's the one.
yeah. Yeah.
I
And
see. Yeah.
yeah, and I don't think he knew that he was doing that either. I think that's the important thing,
Yes. Yeah.
because he has a major grievance against the Lothari people,
Hmm.
because of incidents like that, where he feels personally betrayed by, well, right, like by his own people
Hmm.
for the things that he had seen them do and the disregard to which it was paid to him. And so I think his Sentinel is kind of like a ranger in a way. Like their job is to like scout and to like go beyond the borders, and to kind of learn and then report back. And so he's the older brother, and then the middle brother is Tehol, or Tehol, who has been a businessman, pretty successful one, but he is one of the more infamous. He is effectively your very like devious, enterprising, specifically criminal operator who uses his clever wit to get what he wants.
He's the Krupp of Midnight Tide so far
Yes.
for me.
Uh, and then last we've got Briss, who is a uh, very dedicated, passionate, and talented warrior who's actually been named as the King's Champion, which effectively means that he has been designated or acknowledged as being the fiercest warrior in their civilization, right? At least in that
Hmm.
particular city. So the idea is you don't want to cross blades with this particular guy, right?
Hmm.
And so each of them are now being featured in parallel storylines that are all kind of crisscrossing in fun ways. Whole is currently en route to this great meeting that's going to take place with the Edur.
Hmm.
Telhol is back at the main city of Lotharis, actually now organizing a new criminal enterprise.
Hmm.
And Briss is finding himself getting embroiled in all of these affairs between the politics of the court, being, King's champion, he's always at the court, and being sort of the prime person to get a scoop on his other brothers.
Hmm.
Right?
I did wonder why not give us a fourth? You know,
Mm.
it just seems like we're going so parallel. I
Yeah.
was a little surprised that there is not a fourth, and also notably, just as far as parallels go, Hull and Benedus are considered to be, they consider each other blood brothers, which is like, they are very close, and they're kind of
Mhm.
like the connection between the two families,
Yep.
which is cool and
Yep.
just notable, I guess.
Yep. So, so as far as that goes, probably should just focus. Maybe we talk first about Hole then, since we're going to talk about him, right? So Hole is currently journeying with an entourage to go meet up with Benedus, which ultimately they do, and then they're going to journey to Hilroth Village for this great meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Some pretty fascinating things happen along the way, but more notably, just the party or the entourage he's currently traveling with. So they have a few caravans, but the main notable characters that are traveling are going to be what is the names?
Saren Padak
Theron Padak, and then
Baruch
Baruch
of
of
Pale.
Pale.
Yep.
Yeah. And so these three are there. There are more with them, like Baruch, for example, as concubines from one of those conqueror villages.
Yeah, the Narek or
Um,
something like that.
yep. And so they're all traveling. But the reason why it's important is because Baruch is currently traveling actually under false pretenses
Mhm.
because presumably he's traveling as a way to, because they have a peace treaty, he's a merchant, so it's all about negotiating trade, and about continuing, right, that the being able to help continue the benefits of having peaceful relations between the two.
Yeah, and they have really
And
like strict laws. So Saren
yep,
is what they call an aquador,
yep,
one of only 7, and
yep,
they are basically the people that escort the traders in. And so
yep,
the Edor people are under the assumption if you're sending one of these 7 people we have agreed upon, then this is legit. You know what I mean? Like
yep.
they don't have any reason
Or,
to suspect
well,
otherwise.
right. Well, and it's even better, like even more than that, because of the fact that the by Lothari culture, like the Aquator is of such an of esteemed position that they have to actually maintain neutrality in this. Like they're strictly held to that as a rule,
Mm.
and to the point that they cannot interfere in the ongoings of what takes place, right? And that's kind of an interesting position where you have, Saren, who is an Aquator from Lothari, but she will not intervene for her, specifically supposed to not intervene for her own personal interests. Whatever happens, happens, regardless if people are lying or if they're telling the truth or they're doing bad things. She's just supposed to be a witness, right?
Mhm. But she is
So,
very suspect of
yeah,
everybody.
yep.
Of everybody. And I guess I want to say up front too before we
Mm,
get too much deeper into this. I did find this crew or group the hardest to follow as far as like the way I look at it is like it's almost like a Venn diagram of like
yep,
but not what a Venn diagram actually means. Of like we got the Edor over here, we got the Lothari over here, and then in the section where they meet, we've got this crew because we've got
yep,
Benedas from one side, we've got Hull and Baruch from the other, and then yeah, like you're saying, Saren is kind of neutral, but then there are relationships between them. I think like Hull and
yep,
Saren used to be
yep,
lovers, and Hull and Benedus are blood brothers, and like it was
yep,
just a hard section for me to be like just to follow
yep.
generally of like what we're doing, other than like they're going to the meeting. Obviously,
Yeah.
that part's easy to
Well, I mean,
follow.
but you hit. I mean, you hit the points though,
Yeah.
right? So yeah. So after, okay, so let me talk about the false pretenses, right? So
Hmm.
Baruch is there under false pretenses because while he's there under the pretense of of negotiating trade, in reality, the queen and the prince and the chancellor are all conspiring to actually start a war with the Eater, and he is there to help ensure that war takes place. And one of the ways in which he's helped to ensure that was he was responsible for poaching the seals
Hmm.
and for organizing the Lothari ships to be there. So he has started moving those pieces, right? Now, not of his own volition, under the orders of the Queen and the Prince. And presumably they have some kind of leverage over him to push him to do this. He's not just doing this because he hates
He's also a
Edor,
pretty
but
severe drug addict too, so that
yeah,
even just that could have something to do with it.
it certainly doesn't help.
Yeah, it doesn't help.
And so we kind of see him as more of this like hedonistic character, and we are highly suspicious. But the wild card here is really Hole. Holobetic, after what happened with the tribes that he gotten to know and become close with, he spun out of control, and until for years, up until about 7 or 8 years ago, when Saren Padak, who's this Aquator, found him, was ultimately able to form a friendship with him, kind of help him to recover from his addictions, kind of regain some of his own composure, and then ultimately she started a romantic relationship with him, or kind of pushed him, or she feels like she pushed him into one. And so now they're close friends, but no longer lovers. And it's still something that they're working through, even though they do care for each other. Oh, because of Hull's position, he did get to become familiar with the Edor as well. It's just that the Edor haven't been conquered yet. And so again, we're kind of seeing this repeat event where it, again, it seems like the Edo just sort of the last domino that's going to be knocked over in the royal courts, push to try to, or ambition to try to conquer everybody.
Yeah, if you look at the
Um,
map, it's really like they're kind of, if you're going north, really, like that's it. They're the last ones, kind of.
Yep. And Hull is so grieved by what has happened with these other tribes, he also wants to start a war with the Eeyore, not because he wants the Eeyore to be wiped out, but because he believes that at some point the Royal Court is going to go after them, and they might as well attack first.
Yeah, they get a jump on them. They could win.
Yep.
Take out the
Yep.
Lothari.
And so he wants to get a war going because he wants them to take out the Lothari.
Yep.
Right. So that way. And so, yeah, and so they're going to meet up. And then, of course, Benedus is going to come meet them because Hull and Benedus have known each other for quite some time now and have, a friendship. And so that's why, in particular, the pretense for both of them being on the respective sides coming to meet and then ultimately travel together. Well, Benedus will go ahead, but ultimately travel together to go to Heroth Village, and that's the reason why they're there, is because they are the right people to begin that negotiation, right? Because they have a history and can kind of represent both sides.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So then that's Hull.
Yep.
And then now there's all this stuff swirling around Hull. Okay. So we mentioned you got the queen, the prince, and you got his name's Triben Knoll as the chancellor. And they are working together to start this war because they want to conquer the Eeyore, right? Not all of the people in the Thari court feel the same way. So then we also have Niphados, who is the first eunuch, pretty special position. The first things, right? Like we have first concubine, first consort, first eunuch. What's special about the first?
King's like, who wants to be the first? Crickets.
What's special about the first concubine? First person the king slept with, right? What's special about the first consort? First person the queen slept with. What's the special thing about the first eunuch? That's the first person neither of them is going to sleep with.
Yeah.
Right?
That's funny.
But we've got Niphados, who's the first eunuch, Unatal, who's the commander of the Lothari army, and then Nisal, who is their first concubine. And technically, we didn't mention it, but there is like I said, there is a first consort, and the first consort is on the queen's side in this whole thing. And the king, it's not really clear like whose side. He's kind of out of it, and kind of feels like he's not really on it. Right?
Yeah, he's probably got his eyes on the power. On the throne kind of thing.
He's kind of happy to just sit on his laurels, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but this group, which also includes, by the way, the King Sorcerer. Although, to be fair, the King Sorcerer, I think, is like an ally, but not it doesn't seem yet like he's one of the primary schemers, if you will. Like he's an ally to the motivations of Unatal, but he is not one of the the thinkers, so to speak, in terms of trying to move these pieces. But this particular group is trying to work against the machinations of the queen and the prince. And, she tries to play it off as like the prince, but I mean, we all know that it's not just one particular prince, right? That it is, in fact, probably largely coming from the queen.
Real quick. Sorry. Professor?
Matt in the back, yeah.
I was just reading my notes about this part, and then I do think one of the biggest hangups for me, going back to that expedition group, is what I just kind of noted them to be called. It took me a while to realize, and like I even just forgot until I read it again, they are not going to the Great Meeting. There is going to be the Great Meeting in the future, with delegates from Lothari, with being the prince. The prince is going to there. So I think that was a hang up I kept getting of like these people with like Baruch, that they're going to the Great Meeting. It's like, no. They'll be there for it. They're going early. They're going to be there before. Yeah, that was one thing.
And you should also be like, I mean, also too, in terms of timeline, like I would imagine the Great Meeting is not going to be like a single day. It's probably going to be several days, if not multiple weeks.
Yeah.
Right, so it's an extended affair.
Yeah, but it's not starting right when they get there. Baruch and Sarah and stuff.
They're just the first entourage.
Yeah, exactly. I think I had a hard time grasping that at first. Of like, I kept being like, all right, so as soon as I get there, we're following this group. They're gonna get there to the Great Meeting. It's like no. we got like all these political machinations and stuff don't make sense if that's true. They only make sense if they're doing this and they, the prince who's in an argument at one of these scenes, like he's going.
Yep.
His bodyguard will be there.
Right. And again, like, if you follow it through, it kind of makes sense, right? Like, because it's a really important meeting. The Warlock King from the Eater is going to be there, right? So you can imagine there's going to be negotiations, political negotiations, right? They're not just going to send members of the royal court to get there first,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like they're going to have
exactly.
people who go there first, right? Representatives from both sides who go there first, right? Who can ensure like the safety and proper etiquette and things like that.
Yeah. So do we think that the Warlock King, he's wanting this gift to be returned to him prior to, so he has it at the great meeting?
Exactly. I think
Yeah.
so. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so that group is going, and so while that entourage is traveling there, these two factions within the royal court are competing with each other to try to steer the direction of this particular great meeting, where the queen wants it to end in war, and the commander of the Thari army does not.
Yeah.
So
it does seem like it's mostly the prince too, because during one of the scenes we'll talk about, the prince kind of storms out, and then the queen is still there, and is like, "Yeah, we know, we know he's a little butthole."
Yeah, I mean, I think she and the prince are full of crap.
You think so? Yeah, it could be.
Oh,
It
yeah,
could
for
just
sure.
be kind of same face thing.
Yeah.
And she's actually running the show. But I did see my note here that because we were talking about the Seta or the Seta or whatever, the sorcerer. That Brees does go and they read the tiles as well, right? As per their culture. Which, by the way, speaking of like the two cultures, obviously we know the Lethari do the tiles. The Eeyore, we don't really know what they do as far as that kind of a thing, like a divination. They may not do it at all. But anyways, Brees goes down into this chamber of divination in which they read it, and Sita does tell him, guard the king's life. It's very important you guard the king's life. And then Brees actually reveals to see that he is worried that Hull is going to kill the prince at the great meeting. So Brees starts to spill his, beans to a couple people. So it seems like just by that, Sita is maybe more on the side of he cares about his king, but is Brees feels comfortable with that, at least to where I would assume he's more on that side than on the prince's side. But I don't, I guess we don't officially know.
Well, I know. I'm pretty sure that Korrikan, the King Sorcerer, is more affiliated with like Unatal, but like obviously he doesn't want, like he doesn't. I don't think he wants conflict. I mean, like I said, I think he's more of like an ally of Brees. He's more of just an ally in general. He's not one of the like schemers, right?
Yeah.
He's just kind of doing his thing.
So it is interesting though, because so the prince obviously wants to go there and start a war.
Yep.
But isn't that what they do anyways? So what is the opposing side is obviously peace, right?
Yep.
They don't want war. But then, what does the king think? Because the king obviously has the history of them enslaving all of these peoples. So it's like, why wouldn't the king want this as well?
Well, it might just be the case that I took it as the king is sitting on his laurels and they're trying to set up the prince to take the throne and shove the king out. So I think that this is going to be, they're going to start this conflict and then use the chaos of this conflict to not only take out the Eeyore, which is a long-standing enemy, but also use it to solidify the prince's position as the king.
Yeah, that's true. But also, I wouldn't know if I'd say they're long-standing enemies, right? Because I think it could also just be they've brokered a peace. There's a peace treaty. They trade. They can live separate lives, and the king is okay with that. But the prince is like, no, I think we could just take him against his father's wishes.
I mean, they do have a peace treaty, but they, even though they have that peace treaty, they still both live like anxious about a future conflict.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
Yeah.
But
and so
that wouldn't have been established if the goal at the time, was to. It happens in real life too, of like, all right, here's a peace treaty, but I'm not going to just be like, we're best friends now, but we are going to both respect this peace treaty kind of thing.
Right. Well, I mean, I see it as like a pure victory. I mean, the Eeyore are probably the second most powerful group in that region, you don't just want to tread in lightly,
Mhm.
especially after you've been conquering those other villages, because they're going to be on guard for that.
Yep.
Right, you're going to lose a lot in that particular battle, so it's just probably better to broker peace
Yeah.
and call that good. But I think that the king has effectively gotten fat in that period of time and probably has lost a lot of that ambition for it and is just fine with the wealth that he's accrued, with the way that he lives, right? He's got
Mhm.
like 6 or 7 concubines at this point.
Mhm.
And I think that the queen wants to see the prince be the king.
Yeah. Do something.
And right, and so this will be the right way to, this is their kind of way to organize that coup d'etat and solidify the new king's position.
Yeah.
Right. So it might be the case that they want to assassinate the king and blame it on the Eador, or they might want to start this war and blame it on the Eador, right, in order to solidify the position. But that's
Yeah.
they're essentially positioning for that.
Yeah, that's because yeah, exactly. That's what they're doing. The prince is trying to start the war without the king knowing that they started the war.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so what we do come to find out through Briss interacting with Unatal is that Baruch, who is the merchant on the expedition, that he's not really interested in working for the queen, but that he is being motivated to do so. Like we said, he's got drug addiction. They probably have leverage, and so it is actually the charge of the prince's bodyguard to ensure that he carries out his particular part of this plan. So they have a belief that if they can just kind of get rid of the leverage, right, that the queen has over Baruch, that they might even be able to co-opt him to not help the queen start this war. And so as a part of that, they're going to try to actually get again, it's a bold strategy, Cotton. They're going to try to have someone of their own party assassinated during the Great Meeting. They're going to try to have Marak Navath, who is the prince's bodyguard, actually assassinated during the Great Meeting. So we have like the Queen's entourage, I presume, is going to try to have the king assassinated. They're going to try to have a war started, right, with the Eador. And now the other party's going to stop them by having somebody else get assassinated during this great meeting, which that just feels like it's potentially going to set up a war. But in order to kind of avoid suspicion, there is one particular person who could assassinate the prince's bodyguard without starting a war. And this person's name is Garen Eberic, who is a unique individual because he has what's called the King's Leave for thwarting an assassination
Saving
attempt
the
against
king.
Yeah, we should put saving the king, but he thwarted an assassination attempt against the king and was rewarded with the King's Leave. Now, it's important to know we say saving the king because he's actually the one who funded the assassination attempt against the king in order to obtain the King's Leave.
Which is you can kill. I think obviously there's some restrictions, like you can't kill the king,
Yep.
you can't kill the prince, but you can virtually kill almost anybody else and get a free pass. It's just that's
so
it.
Essentially he never has to walk the canal. That's kind of the thing.
Yep.
Right. And so again, so he can kind of just get away with whatever he wants. And so what he's done is he's made himself very rich. And he has effectively been making a list of people that he wants to take out because
he's got a hit list.
He's got a hit list. He's got a known hit list of people that he sees as being at odds with his personal ambitions or just, in his opinion, bad for Lothari society. And so he takes them out. That's his thing. That's his weekend hobby.
Dang,
Okay?
you know what I just thought about?
Yep.
This is a really weird tangent, but we're 2 hours in, so if anyone's still here, humor me for a second. Maybe it wouldn't work, but a cool idea for like a horror story is if everybody in the world, it's kind of like The Purge, but not really. Everyone in the world gets to create a list of whatever, 10 names. Let's call it 10. Of 10 people you want to die the most. The one being the most, 10 being the least of those 10. And then at a certain time, magic happens, and the number one person on everybody's list dies. And then the number 2 person on everybody's list dies. Just something like that. I think that would be an interesting story. Like, who makes it?
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, could you make it through everybody in the world's 10 people? Like, what's your priority kind of thing?
Just
Anyways.
as long as it doesn't happen during like grading season, I think I'm okay with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're actually all 10 on my list. I
Yeah.
hate to tell you. They're like, sir, you only need to put their name once. I'm like, I know. 10 times. But yeah, maybe
There you go. You should write a story.
I should write a story. Tell Bridget.
should write a story.
tell
There we go.
Bridget. Please write
Do a
my
little
story for me.
Do a little collab.
Yep. Anyway, sorry to go on a weird tangent, but I thought about that when we were talking about the hit list. I was like, maybe that'd be a cool idea.
We're giving the viewers some insight into your unique mind.
Yeah. If that story ever comes out, I'll know where you got it from.
You're gonna be number one on my list.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, we're on the hit list. We're on the hit list. He's got a hit list.
So he's got a hit list, and the idea is that they're gonna try to coax him, this Eberic guy, into going to the Great Meeting, which turns out not really difficult because basically all they have to do is massage his ego a little bit. He's kind of just already like on board, like, no, I'm going. I'm not gonna miss it.
Yeah.
I'm like the Riz's coolest guy here. Of course I'm going. Plus, there's gonna be some people there on my hit list, so that could be kind of fun. And so what they really need done is they need it to be the case that they got to be able to get the Prince's Bodyguard on that hit list, because you get Eberic there, you get the bodyguard on his hit list, you basically you hit his ego a little bit, and he's not going to be able to help himself. That's the way that they view it. He's just not, and so he will take out the bodyguard, and they feel like he's going to be pretty easy to leverage because he's so egotistical. And they've got half that part done. They've got him going, but they don't have the bodyguard on the hit list. So interestingly enough, they've actually charged Briss Benedict, who is effectively working with them at this point, to try to figure out a way to make that happen.
Should we call him Brees?
Sorry, Brees.
Briss. Yeah.
Briss. I'm going to keep saying Bryce.
Old circumcision. Yeah, Bryce or
so
Brees. No, not Briss.
So Breeze's pieces is gonna have, but yeah. So Breeze's job is to try to find some way to get Marok Navath, the Prince's Bodyguard, onto that hit list. And this is, kind of one of the things that's kind of interesting about this is that bodyguard and Breeze actually have a history. Not like, not very complicated history, but they've been rivals for quite a long time. Because Breeze is considered number one swordsman, Prince's Bodyguard, number two. In fact, it's kind of in some ways unclear because many people thought that actually the Prince's Bodyguard should have been named champion.
And like the prince like demands that it's undone at some point, or someone on their side demands it's undone. Maybe it's him. I can't remember. But someone is like, undo this. Like, he does not deserve it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was looking at my notes. This was me like copying down quick notes when I was reading the recaps. So before this was that meeting. The first thing I wrote was that Brees finds Preda, meeting with the first concubine,
Mm-hmm.
and reports. Someone reports. I think this is the Preda is reporting to Brees of that conversation that Eberic is considering killing Baruch at the Great Meeting. So they have to figure out a way to remove Eberic from the delegation. But then at the same time, they're trying to get him there to kill the bodyguard, or are they trying to get him to kill the bodyguard before they go to the Great Meeting kind of thing?
They're trying to get him to kill the bodyguard instead of Baruch, right?
Okay, but at the Great Meeting.
They want to focus him on the bodyguard.
Yeah.
He is effectively the only one who could kill that bodyguard without starting a war, because he's got the king's leave, and that's well known. But he's also Lothari, right? Mm-hmm. So like it is definitely something where if it got out that the prince's bodyguard was killed by Eberic, no one's gonna be like, was it an Edor plot?
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're gonna be like, oh, that Eberic guy again. Oh goodness, he got another one.
Yeah. And so if they
You
do
know?
that, right, then the prince, because the prince could essentially threaten Baruch while he's there with his bodyguard to be like, do what I say.
Exactly.
But once
Yep.
that's gone, the prince doesn't have anything to hide behind, and Ebrecht can just be like, I can do whatever I want, kind of thing, and like,
Yep.
therefore trying to persuade Baruch to not do what he was planning to do, which I can't remember. Do we know what his actual plan is at the great
Yep.
meeting?
We don't know that yet.
Just something crazy enough
Yep.
to start a
Yep.
war.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
All right. Well,
but
I'm
again,
there. I'm there.
again, wild card. This could all happen, and Hull could still get a war started anyway, right?
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there's that whole thing going. Now the last kind of little tidbit here before we move on to Tehol, which will be kind of our last one, is it is worth noting that we have had confrontations between these two particular groups, and we kind of alluded to that, to where Brees actually meets with Unatal, the commander, and actually stands as a guard during during her meeting with the Queen and the Prince. And this is after it's found out that Unatal actually organized, right, um, Ebricht to join the entourage, or not join the entourage, but to go to the great meeting. She organized it such that he would go, and they're aware of that. And the Queen and the Prince are specifically approaching Unatal to have that undone, to have her command Ebricht to come back. And we get this really cool scene where she says no. The prince does not take it very well. She tells the prince, I don't work for you. I work for your dad.
Mm-hmm.
And then Marok, the bodyguard, takes that badly, goes to pull out his sword. And in the moment it takes him to pull out that sword, Brees has already covered several paces with the sword drawn,
Yeah.
and no one's even noticed it. And Unatal only realizes it because like the hairs on her neck begin to like prick up. And she's like, "You may want to put that blade down."
Yeah. Because he's
And
just
then
like been hiding in the shadows.
yeah, and
Yeah.
and
That
we
was
get
a
that
cool
first
scene.
we get that kind of first moment where it's just like if she hadn't like intervened, like he would have just killed like the bodyguard in an instant.
Yeah.
And who was again like second best swordsman, and Brees would have just killed him without him even being aware that like Brees was even there.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that's kind of like what we're what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
In terms of their level of skill and how deadly these particular characters are. So, which is just crazy.
Yeah. It is crazy. I'm trying to. There was one other part where, where Brees and Eberic meet. This is after the Ubala's drowning, which we'll talk about soon. They were there. He was gambling, basically, and wins a bunch of money off it. And so they go and eat at a restaurant, and they're actually discussing. This is Brees and Eberic discussing Hull's likely plans to side with the Edor. So like Ember kind of knows that, and so Brees is to inform the eunuch and sorcerer of that. But at the same conversation, I think Brees is a little suspect that Ebricht is not in love with his brother T-Hole. But I did find that interesting. Of just like there a lot of people, even Ebricht, that who's they're trying to send to stop, whatever. He even knows that Hull is gonna probably do what we all think he's gonna do, which is interesting. Why Brees would tell him that?
It's true, but I do think that just based on what we've learned so far, I think that Brees and Eberic are in unique positions to know that because they're both very intimately familiar with Hull.
Yeah, but wouldn't that set up like I would be? I mean, it's not like Brees and Hull have bad blood or anything. I would be hesitant to tell Eberic anything about my family because if he takes it wrong, he's just gonna kill him. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but I mean, but I think it is meant to be understood that like although like Eberic does have problems with like Tehol, that's largely a business concern.
Yeah,
and frankly, he doesn't really have a problem with like deal. Like he actually kind of wants the dude to succeed. But I think like we are meant to understand that Eberic and Hull have a history, and that history they are kind of like battle brothers in a way, right? They
Mhm.
forge bonds. They forge bonds in military, working for Lithari. I think wasn't Everett either Hull's captain or the other way, or they were both working together under the same captain. But they have a history to the point where
Yeah, because aren't they
I
both like Finads in the
well
Royal
they are
Guard?
they do become to that point, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So other than
But I
like before he became the King's Champion, they were of level ground essentially.
yeah. And so I think that the way I would look at it is from Reese's perspective, he has no reason to suspect that Ebert would ever do anything to Hull.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
But then he does. Yeah, I hear you. But
Yeah.
also he then immediately suspects that he's going to do something to T-Hole.
Well, right, but he doesn't have that relationship with T-Hole, right?
Who? Brees doesn't.
No, Ebert doesn't. So yeah, he
Wait,
does
but
suspect that Ebert.
wait, but does Ebert have the I know Ebert has a relationship with Brees, but Ebert does he have a relationship with Hull?
Yes. No. He
Oh,
specifically has a relationship with Hull. They fought together. They go way back.
I thought you were saying him and Brees had that.
No,
that
no.
connection.
Him and Hull have that connection.
I
Like,
see. I see.
he
I see.
actually knows Hull really, really well. In fact,
Okay.
he's the one who's kind of saying like these kind of things may, these things my kind of things may happen, and Brees is like, yeah, I mean, you would know, right? Because Ebert like he understands what Hull went through. He was there when Hull went through that. He saw Hull have that like descent, have like him go what's the word, like a spiral out of control because of that betrayal and how much it hurt him. Like Ebert saw all that,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Yeah. So, but as far as like Teal goes, like they don't have that relationship. Also, Ebert kind of suspects that Teal knows the truth, which he does, which is that Ebert was the one who actually orchestrated the assassination.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. So Ben, again, Brees doesn't give Ebert any information on Teal on Hull. He just kind of says like, well, I don't really. I know my brothers, but like, I kind of don't like that brother because he hasn't been doing anything. And Ebert's like, are you sure he hasn't been doing anything? He's like, I guess you would know. It's the first I've ever heard of it, right? So he doesn't really give him any information, and then he immediately goes to Tehol after that meeting. Is like, by the way, he's looking at you. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
let's talk about him. The man, the myth,
yeah.
the legend.
So,
Probably the best character in this part.
I will say this is actually like the other story I'm the most interested in. Like,
Yeah,
I'm actually
this story is
really
great.
enjoying this particular story where we have Tehol is one of the brothers who, we'll come to find out, has actually pulled off an insane criminal plot. And so we'll talk more about that in a second. But because of this criminal plot, no one really knows that he was actually able to pull that off. There were some people who suspected he was able to pull it off, but this kind of opens up with him coming back to his residence, which is managed by a person named Bug, who's actually low-key very talented and has a flexible moral compass, which works very well with Tehol. And he comes to find out that 3 women have come to his residence, and he doesn't really know what it is, but he plays it off as being something romantic. And actually kind of goes on like almost like a pre-victory lap, going around telling people like, I got a date with 3 women, right? But he meets these women and finds out that they actually know the truth. They're very adamant that they know the truth, and they want to hire him. They want him to do it again, is what they say. And they basically work to motivate him to start a new criminal enterprise. And as far as I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, but this particular criminal enterprise is essentially to undermine the queen.
So yeah, what they want to do is so who they are is important. These are half tribes women that from these peoples that have been enslaved by the Lithari, and so these are people that want revenge. And so the criminal plot that T-Hole did in the past was he made a fortune essentially, and then lost that fortune. But didn't actually lose it. But he donated it to basically house these people on islands.
Yep. And to go a little bit deeper in that, the people who he stole the fortune from were bankers. And we came to find out that they were, at least in Dale's opinion, directly involved with his father's suicide.
Okay. Yeah, I forgot
Yep.
about that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
forgot about the
so-
whole father suicide
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
So he specifically did that to get his own vengeance.
Yeah, and also
on
while
them.
doing good, which is great because you kind of
Mhm.
then again immediately like him because
Yep.
you know it's like a fuck the man kind of thing.
Yeah.
But so he does that, and so they're saying, one, we know what you did for our people, and two, just what you did. We know your secrets, and so we want you to do it again to tank the economy, to ruin them in a way
Yep.
that we can, with not through warfare, but
Yep.
by destroying their economy. And in the meantime, we're gonna do the same thing you did, essentially, like house more of our people
Yep.
safely.
Yep.
And so that's what they're contracting him to do.
Yep. Yeah, and then as far as like the whole father suicide thing, because in their culture there's that idea of indebtedness, and indebtedness is very shameful, and one of the ways that you can get rid of a debt is by dying. And so effectively with like the bankers is they had, the way he looked at it was they had criminally indebted his father to such a degree, right, that he took his own life to spare his family that shame and that debt, right?
And what did the mom?
And
There was a weird. The mom had interesting something happened with her too, right?
so what Till basically said was that he's just doing the thing that he believes his mother would have done. So basically, what they're saying is that their mother's very smart, she's very devious, and she's ruthless. But the problem was that she never made a play against the bankers because they believe that it would have put the three brothers into jeopardy. That basically would have put them in the line of fire, either because it would have meant that both of them might have died, or it would have meant that the brothers could have been killed, or the whole family could have been killed. So effectively, rather than fighting against the bankers, right, and potentially sparing the dad and all of them getting to live as a family, they she stayed with the boys and the father committed suicide.
Yeah.
So they effectively chose not to fight back, and then she later passes away. So that's the way that they view it, is like he really believes that she actually could have just wiped the board of them, but chose not to because it could have embroiled the whole family. And so Tell is like basically getting the vengeance that he believed that she always would have sought, and kind of doing it her way, right, of this very devious scheme.
Yeah.
And whereas they say that like Brees really takes after the father, which kind of lets us know that the father is more of a skilled swordsman, competent warrior, and so on and so forth. And he taught Brees like everything he knows, everything he knows. So, yeah, and so now he's assembling the criminal enterprise. You got Bug, and we have Ubala Pung, who is this other half-blood, quadruple-lunged giant of a man, well hung, and who is now going to be working as basically an enforcer. They've got their pretty much dead thief, person who was cursed to undeath, who is now working as their thief.
Well, didn't she also die?
Yeah, she's cursed to undeath. She died, and now she's undead.
Yeah, but what didn't she die during a drowning? She was doing the drowning.
Yeah, a freak accident.
Accident. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's this. Make matters worse, when they do the canal run, there's this giant fish that will sometimes just prey on men. And so it actually came for her, realized that she's a woman and it doesn't eat women. So then it swam away and accidentally got like entangled with the rope that they use.
Pulled her
so
down.
Then she pulled her down, right? And so she ended up drowning because she couldn't make it across. And then, of course, they're like, trying to pull the money back. But she winds up washing up down the canal. And she ends up realizing that she was cursed on death. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the three women, which I think are just worth giving their names, is Hajun, Shand, and Rizar.
Yeah, Rizar.
Yep. Which I like them so far. Not a ton of them, but I do like their personalities. They're kind of no nonsense, very confident, powerful women. It feels like I do like them. I'm excited to see, especially once we get Ubala there. And like I am just this is definitely the storyline with humor. Like he's always got to have one, and this one, even though there's very high stakes, there's a lot of humor in this storyline. I'm enjoying it quite a bit.
Yeah. I gotta go grab my boy. Do you want to finish this up with Kettle?
My boy. Yes. Yeah. I'll finish up with Kettle. So yeah, basically they recruit a thief, and after Teho meets with the thief, which I'm blanking on the thief's name. Let me find it. Oops. The thief's name. Oh, Shirk. Shirk. And so they're worried that she was followed to T-Hole's place. So T-Hole says, well, there's only one, back way where you could spy, essentially. So she goes there, finds like blood and bloody footprints, follows them, and she finds another undead child who I think at some point T-Hole and Shirk talked about, which, by the way, also, that is part of the agreement. He needs to hire a thief. The thief's job will be to steal from, I believe it's, I want to say it's Eberic. I think that's the plan. Let me see. I'm almost positive that is the plan.
Yeah, no, her Shirk, and her plan is, T-Hole is
Yeah.
hiring her to steal all of Eberic's fortune.
Yeah, wealth and assets and stuff. Yeah. Okay. Yep. So, the deal is, it's a boy. She will only agree to this if, as someone who is undead, she wants to feel pleasure again, like true pleasure. That's part one of the deal. The second part of the deal is that he will help investigate, essentially, or help with this undead child that's haunting the tower, essentially, which I think we learn is maybe in a Zath house kind of deal. And so
No, it is
she,
in a Zath house, housing at least 5 Hoblikai.
yeah, so she follows these bloody footprints, goes, finds Kettle, who is this undead child, who is very concerned because these 5 beings that are essentially saying like we're gonna be free really soon. And she's like, that's not good. We can't do that. And so what she's been doing is killing people and feeding these dead bodies to the Azath house to keep it from dying, which who knows if that works. I don't know if there's any confirmation that actually works, but Shirk is like, I got you, dog. We're going to kill a lot of people together. And so they kind of make this agreement to stop that Azath house from dying and releasing all of these beings that it's keeping. Notably, these 5 dangerous. I guess I totally missed that they were Toblakai, or I just don't remember, but Toblakai. And so that's kind of where we leave off with them. Is he's recruited his thief. The thief also has like a side gig kind of going with Kettle, and they're gonna move forward with. He leaves Zubala with the ladies, and he comes naked. I think he just doesn't wear clothes.
There's just no loincloth that can hold him.
Yeah, that's
what it is.
exactly, yeah. And so he's very nervous when he is left there, and they're very, very interested. Very interested because of his he's very well endowed, and they are interested in that. So that'll be fun to see. But that's kind of where we leave things. Like the next step of the plan is to steal the wealth and assets of Eberic using the thief, and then to move forward with the plan to start tanking the economy. Essentially, I guess that's the beginnings of those investments, because it's really just investing that he does, like smart investments. But I think we covered it all. Anything else you can think of?
I love I do love the jokes, or like with this particular line, like you mentioned, like when Ubala comes in naked and he goes to sit in the chair, he's like, no, if you sit in the chair, you'll end up wearing it. Oh wait, no, that's a terrible idea. Like,
Teal was really, really funny. Yeah, I do. I really like him. We'll see. I think he just, it's just classic Erickson. It's like he toes that line so well. Of like, it's a very serious plot, the storyline, but he's really funny. Like, and him and Bug's relationship, I love them. I'm just excited for that one. And it's just like a cool idea for a nice plot in a story that's going to be probably full of a major war. Because I mean, we talk about predictions. The war is going to happen. is gonna happen, right? I'd be surprised. It would be really cool if it didn't somehow. But yeah, I think it's happening. Yeah, I think other predictions I would have is like not all 4 of the brothers make it back from retrieving the gift. That would be my biggest guess there. I have no idea what's happening with Udanos, if I'm being honest, but I am just along for that ride. And yeah, other than that, any particular likes or dislikes you want to talk about, or we just wrap it up?
I think we pretty much covered it. I think my Hail Mary prediction is going to be that Unas turns into a Wyval and he joins Buke.
He joins
Buke? Years from now.
From Darujistan?
Well, yeah. Buke wasn't Buke the one who like
Oh
became a
no.
soul taker?
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually, I think you're right because there's wait. Who's the guy that is in charge of the guild that sends the wagons? He's in Darujistan. He's I think he's Crocus's uncle or something. Isn't he
Baroque.
He's what?
Baroque.
So there's Baroque, there's Baruch, and there's Buke. Are you kidding me? Like, bro, come on now. Get out of here. I can't keep track anymore. Yes.
Yeah, but Buke was the one who
turned
did the animal. Yeah, did the Animorph thing.
Yeah, it was so. Yeah, I hope so. Maybe. Yeah, maybe they'll team up and we'll have like a duo of flyers.
Future side, and they'll like join up.
That was the moment when I realized I shouldn't make any big predictions because that I could not have been more wrong. I was like, he's gonna be the star of the book, and then he just fucking flies off like, and we never hear from him again. We better hear from him again. Otherwise, what the hell was the point? There's no way we don't. There's zero chance. But also, it'd be really funny if we didn't, and I wouldn't hate it. He's just like, oops, I forgot. How does Steven Anderson keep track of all that? Writing this. That I would just be curious, like, how? How do you keep track of that? I looked it up. There's like 3,500 named characters in this series. That's insanity. That's crazy. But anyways, all right, let's wrap it up. Yeah, we did it. We did 2.5 hours. That's kind of what we were hoping. That was with 20 minutes of us just not talking about Malazan at all. So I'll probably have to put in the description a time of like, hey, if you actually want to, maybe I won't. I don't know. Maybe I'll make people suffer and guess. But all right, we're signing off. I'm Matt. Actually, I guess we could talk about what we're doing next. I'm seeing the sad baby. It's probably bedtime.
He's just a little bit tired.
A little tired.
Yeah, but we're going to be reading part 2. We're hoping to do about a part every 2 weeks. And then we'll probably take like a week or 2 off, and then we'll jump into the next one. And so we should be done with this one probably sometime in July, but just expect, close to late June. We'll have the next one, so in a couple weeks.
Yep.
And then we're going to do part 2, part 3, part 4, and we'll do the BARF review as part of part 4.
Yep, as part. Yeah.
And then
probably maybe open with it, close with it. We'll talk about that as we go. But yeah, couple weeks. Next one will be up. Probably I'd say 2 to 3 weeks so we don't get too ambitious. All right. Well then, until next time, I'm Matt, and
I'm Ian.
That's Ian,
and this is Thomas,
and that's Thomas. Thomas.
No, you don't like it.
Oh no. Okay. All right. Goodbye, everybody.